Chapter 821. Under normal circumstances, the yellow-robed middle-aged kings would find it hard to catch up to Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng. However, the trio had an ancient flaming chariot, and when they poured their true yuan into it, their speed surpassed normal void god realms. "Bastards, leave behind the water elemental treasure and I'll let you live," the yellow-robed middle-aged man roared. Before his figure arrived, a yellow domain image appeared around him. The void around him seemed inexplicably heavy. The other two king geniuses, the youth in white and the youth in black, were filled with battle intent. No matter how special the abilities of the two were, there was only one king-level beast king, and there were still 3 groups of people who would arrive soon. However, to everyone's surprise, the 2 people in front of them suddenly stopped and turned around to wait for the 3 kings. "Hee, I've taken a liking to your chariot." The purple-haired youth had a playful expression. Hearing that, the 3 kings paused for a moment before becoming enraged. "Bastards, don't be arrogant. Measly origin core realms. Aren't you afraid of losing your tongue?" The yellow-robed middle-aged king and company were enraged. The water elemental treasure that they had set their eyes on had been stolen by these 2. Now, these 2 thieves were insatiably greedy and arrogant. They even had their eyes on their flaming flying chariot. Rumble. At this instant, 3 surges of magnificent force descended from the sky furiously. However, the 2 in their vision didn't move at all. The yellow-robed middle-aged king and company were stunned and in disbelief. After all, Nan Gongsheng was a space elemental domain-level king, and he had a spatial spiritual body and a heaven spiritual body. He was extremely compatible with heaven and earth, but this measly origin core realm bastard was still fine. "Go!" Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng turned into 2 streaks of light that charged toward the 3 kings. Whoosh! Zhao Feng's shoes shot out a beam of green flames, and with the help of his powerful body, he quickly closed in on the 3 kings. "Humph." The yellow-robed middle-aged man had a mocking expression as the earth-yellow figure merged into the air nearby and became more condensed. Boom! Zhao Feng's figure sank as he felt a strong pressure that seemed to come from the sky. If it was an ordinary primal core cultivator, they would have vomited blood and died. However, Zhao Feng's physique was strong, his intent was profound, and he had the power of the ancient green shoes, so he was able to resist it. The yellow-robed middle-aged man's expression froze. He remembered how the purple-haired youth's left eye had indirectly affected the river-devouring Kuan's control. "Leave this purple-haired youth to me," the yellow-robed middle-aged man shouted. He shook his arms, and 2 dazzling yellow light dragon phantoms appeared behind him. They roared and shook his blood. Earth bloodline. Zhao Feng's expression changed slightly. Not only did this yellow-robed man possess an earth domain, but he also had an earth bloodline. Unfortunately, he didn't. The earth bloodline was the perfect counter to his water bloodline and water of wind lightning. Unless Zhao Feng reached the 7th stage of the wind lightning divine art, he would be able to form the wood of wind lightning and suppress the earth elemental bloodline. In terms of strength, this yellow-robed middle-aged man was only inferior to Jiu Wuji. "Let me." A layer of silver-purple afterimages came crashing down and clashed with the yellow-robed man's earth domain. Boom! Both sides were pushed back by the collision of the spatial domains. Nan Gongsheng's attack was extremely sudden, and it pushed back the 3 kings. Nan Gongsheng's purple hair blew in the wind, and the purple and blood-colored symbol on his forehead flashed as his true yuan and domain released a wicked and powerful force. What strength! There's a terrifying aura within this youth's origin. The expression of the yellow-robed middle-aged man was solemn. He originally wanted to personally take care of the mysterious purple-haired youth, but he was stopped by Nan Gongsheng. Spatial element kings had the upper hand in a battle, and they could dodge or interfere at any time. "I have a defensive soul weapon on me. Leave this brat to me." The youth licked his lips as a layer of magnificent power appeared around him, and he charged toward Zhao Feng. The yellow-robed middle-aged man nodded his head faintly. He could tell that Zhao Feng's left eye was a soul elemental bloodline. He and the white-robed youth teamed up to deal with Nan Gongsheng, who had a terrifying aura. Bam! Boom! Nan Gongsheng used his spatial movement technique, and a bewitching silver and purple streak of light streaked through the air as he fought against the two Void God Realm kings. If this was when Nan Gongsheng first entered the divine illusion dimension, it would have been hard for him to deal with the yellow-robed middle-aged man. But now, under the nurturing of the evil god crystal and the substandard divine crystals, his strength had skyrocketed like never before. The fusion of the evil god crystal and the space element had created incredible power. Nan Gongsheng's potential is very big. Zhao Feng nodded his head faintly and circulated his sacred lightning body to fight against the youth in red. The youth in red was a new king, and he had a unique fire elemental bloodline. Fire Cloud Divine Strike. The youth in red thrust out his palms, and a wave of fiery palms stacked in the air. Every round of attacks would leave behind a flaming mushroom cloud. It could be said that the offense of this youth in red was one of the top amongst those of the same cultivation. Wings of Wind and Lightning. A pair of wings of wind and lightning condensed behind Zhao Feng's back, giving off a dreamy feeling. Pang! Boom! The water of wind lightning merged with the physical force of his sacred body, and Zhao Feng easily fought against the youth in red. Even in a head-on clash, Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body wasn't much weaker. Boom! Pang! Pang! The wings behind Zhao Feng's back fluttered rapidly, and an invisible force crushed toward the youth in red. Why is it like this? The youth in red had a heavy heart, and his face was slightly red as he felt a suffocating pressure. In terms of true offensive power, he even had the advantage. However, when facing this purple-haired youth, he felt as if his hands and feet were tied, as if he was being restrained in every aspect. A similar feeling had appeared on Xian Wuheng's body earlier. Ah! The purple-haired youth roared as a layer of silver-blue light appeared around his body, making him seem like he was made of metal. Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body could only be used in close combat. Pang! 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 Zhao Feng kept on attacking as he closed in. In reality, Zhao Feng was purposefully training his close combat abilities. In his previous life, he specialized in long-range attacks and the soul. In terms of close combat, Zhao Feng was only average. Let's see how long a measly origin core realm can last. The youth in red laughed coldly. He and Zhao Feng were going to clash head-on. Although his body wasn't as strong as Zhao Feng's, his true yuan was stronger, and his bloodline was stronger. He wasn't scared of Zhao Feng in a head-on clash, and he had more stamina. Zhao Feng saw this as well. On the other side, Nan Gongsheng was fighting against two kings, and it would be hard to determine the winner in a short amount of time. Seeing this, Zhao Feng decided to test his mutated Blood Devil Sun bloodline again. He felt a warm feeling from the previous test, and he felt that the power of his bloodline hadn't been discovered yet. Open! Zhao Feng punched out, and a glass-like flame appeared around his body. It was filled with a scorching aura. This time, Zhao Feng circulated his Blood Devil Sun bloodline, and he didn't purposely hide his power like last time. Boom! Bam! The two's fists and palms clashed, and the blood-colored flames intertwined with each other and created a terrifying wave of fire. The powerful aura even caused the other three kings to look over. What a terrifying Fire Dao bloodline! That black-clothed youth's figure retreated. His body was still burning with a layer of blood sun flame that seemed to be spreading all over his body. The mutated Blood Devil Sun bloodline was extremely fierce, and it had the ability to corrode and burn. Luckily, this youth in red also had the Fire Dao bloodline, so he was able to resist the Blood Devil Sun bloodline. Wait. The youth in red felt that his yuan qi and blood had been corroded in the clash just now. The mutated Blood Devil Sun bloodline didn't just have explosive power, it also had a strong corrosive ability. Zhao Feng felt a weird warmth return to his body and nourish it. This warmth contained a wisp of king-level yuan qi and blood. Could it be? Zhao Feng felt that his body and yuan qi were being replenished, and some of his weaker injuries were being healed. This incredible discovery made him overjoyed. Ha! Zhao Feng circulated his mutated bloodline, and the blood-colored glass-like flames howled as they clashed with the youth in red. Boom! The youth in red harumphed as he flew back, and a layer of flames covered his body once more. This was the effect of the mutated Blood Devil Sun bloodline. If it were someone else, they would probably be instantly burned to ashes. What made the youth in red even more uncomfortable was that some of his yuan qi and blood would leak out when he clashed with his opponent. On the other hand, Zhao Feng's face was glowing red, and he became fiercer and fiercer. It was hard to imagine that his opponent, a small origin core realm, could fight head-on against a king for a long time. Ha ha ha. I didn't think that the mutated Blood Devil Sun bloodline could absorb the yuan qi and yuan qi of others to replenish its own yuan qi. Zhao Feng was overjoyed. It could be said that this was a rare blood-sucking effect. Zhao Feng's bloodline power allowed him to absorb the target's blood essence with every attack and kill to replenish his own yuan qi. A similar ability had appeared on the Emperor of Death before. The Emperor of Death's Tentacle of Death was a domineering forbidden technique that forcefully devoured the lifeblood essence of others to heal his own injuries and replenish his yuan qi. Its recovery speed was even faster and more domineering than Zhao Feng's current blood-sucking effect. However, the yuan qi that the Tentacle of Death replenished wasn't pure, and it required time to refine. At the same time, it could leave behind hidden injuries and side effects. Zhao Feng found that the speed and quantity of his bloodline's bloodline wasn't very high, but the essence of the bloodline had been refined and the impurities had been removed, making the bloodline purer. Overall, Zhao Feng's bloodline didn't have many side effects, but it couldn't be used endlessly. Peng! 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 The wings on Zhao Feng's back fluttered as he circulated his body and mutated bloodline to fight against the youth in black. How is this possible? The youth in black became weaker and weaker as he fought, and the burns on his body became worse. He started to become weaker and weaker. On the other hand, Zhao Feng's face was glowing red, and he became fiercer and fiercer as he fought, as if he wanted to continue fighting. It's about time. This blood-sucking ability is only effective in close-range combat. It's even more effective when there's physical contact. Zhao Feng came to a conclusion after testing it in real combat. The potential of this bloodline was comparable to the Mystic Ice-scaled race's bloodline in his previous life, and it might even be slightly stronger. More importantly, this mutated bloodline was extremely compatible with his sacred lightning body. Chapter 822. Through this battle, Zhao Feng had tested out the unique bloodline ability of the mutated Blood Devil Sun bloodline. This bloodline ability would greatly increase Zhao Feng's endurance and recovery speed. Whoosh! 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 Right at this moment, the sound of flying came from afar. Those figures were the half-step kings from the three kings groups. If the strength of these teams arrived, it would have some impact on the battle situation. After all, the battle power of some of these half-step kings was close to that of a Void God Realm king. Let's end this. Zhao Feng's silver-blue metallic body suddenly became taller, and he circulated his sacred body to the maximum, causing the youth's body to sink. At the same time, when Zhao Feng's mutated bloodline started to boil, and the faint image of a blood-red sun appeared behind him. There seemed to be a whirlpool within it. At that instant, Zhao Feng seemed to have turned into a blood sun demonic sovereign, and his body bathed in the blood-red sun. All of the living beings and powerful human beings in the surroundings could feel their blood boiling, and their bodies instinctively trembled with unease. What? This is his peak power. The youth's expression changed dramatically. His face went white, and he felt like he was suffocating. Boom! Crack! Zhao Feng punched out, and the pressure from his sacred body was like a mountain. The flaming fist was like a burning sun, and it instantly exploded after hitting its target. Arg! Like a piece of paper, the young man's defense was sent flying by the powerful punch. In the air, wah! The youth spat out a mouthful of blood as his body flew back, and a layer of blood-red flames covered his body. Plop! The youth stumbled onto the ground with a pale white face. When he extinguished the flames, his body was scorched. At this moment, the youth was dazed and in disbelief. The geniuses that entered the divine illusion dimension were 1 in 10,000. Normal king geniuses came from 3-star powers or organizations of the same level. The elites of the older generation were the best amongst those of the same cultivation. He never would have thought that the purple-haired youth would be able to make him spit out blood in a physical fight without using any soul-eye bloodline techniques. Pop! After heavily injuring the black-clothed youth with a punch, Zhao Feng felt a trace of warmth flowing back into his body, nourishing it. The life-steal effect of the mutated bloodline came into play, and the effect was even better this time. Zhao Feng had recovered some of his true energy and bloodline power. He discovered that the stronger the target, the more serious the injury, and the more effective the life-steal regeneration would be. Whoosh! Puff! The ancient shoes under Zhao Feng's feet shot out a beam of green flames, and the wings on his back fluttered as he forcefully interfered with the battle between Nan Gongsheng and the other 2 kings. How could this be? The yellow-robed middle-aged man and the white-robed young man were in disbelief. The black-robed youth was the top genius of a 3-star super sect. How could he be defeated so easily by a Primal Core Realm Junior? Boom! With extreme speed and the explosive power of his physique and bloodline, Zhao Feng punched the other white-robed young man. This white-robed youth was also a peerless genius from a 3-star sect. However, the instant Zhao Feng's attack arrived, his powerful body and bloodline burned, causing his body to become heavy, and his mouth to go dry. Crack! The defense of the white-robed youth shattered, and a blood-colored flame spread across his body. With just one punch, the white-robed youth was pushed back. His blood churned, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He was already injured. And this was under the condition that the white-robed youth was on guard. The explosive power of such a powerful bloodline and body obviously exhausted a lot of Zhao Feng's energy. However, the life-steal effect of the mutated bloodline allowed Zhao Feng's slightly injured body to recover. Peng! Boom! Boom! The addition of Zhao Feng's domineering close-range combat instantly turned the situation around. Nan Gongsheng used a spatial movement technique and close-range combat to instantly injure the 2 kings. Originally, the 2 of them weren't able to gain any advantage against Nan Gongsheng, and Nan Gongsheng even had the upper hand. In just 1 or 2 breaths, the yellow-robed middle-aged man and white-robed youth were injured and forced to retreat. What kind of bloodline is this? What explosive power! It's similar to the Blood Devil Sun bloodline, but even scarier. Blood leaked out of the yellow-robed middle-aged man's mouth. The sacred lightning body combined with the mutated Blood Devil Sun bloodline allowed him to unleash explosive power in close-range combat. And the effect of life-steal recovery made this kind of transcendent burst last longer. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, the half-step kings and peak great origin core realms behind the 3 kings arrived, and their expressions changed dramatically when they saw this. The 2 purple-haired males were extremely wicked. The 2 of them teamed up and forced the yellow-robed middle-aged man and the other kings to retreat and injure them. Retreat! The yellow-robed middle-aged man gritted his teeth and ordered. Leave behind the flaming chariot, and I'll let you live. Zhao Feng had a calm expression. Shua! He waved his hand, and an ugly female scorpion man appeared before him. Go! With a thought from Zhao Feng, the ugly female scorpion man charged toward the half-step king reinforcements like a ghost. So fast! The half-step kings that had just arrived were furiously attacked by the ugly female scorpion man. The weaker half-step kings couldn't even touch the female scorpion man. Ding! 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 Some of the attacks landed on the black metallic armor of the female scorpion man and created sparks. Arg! A scream soon sounded from the crowd. A peak Great Origin Core realm that was a bit slower was slashed by the female scorpionman's pincers and instantly died. The venom of the female scorpion man was deadly to anyone below the Void God realm. Everyone, watch out! Apart from the fact that her soul hasn't evolved enough, her offense, speed, and defense have all reached the level of a king. The reinforcements that had arrived were stalled by the female scorpion man. This scene made the expressions of the yellow-robed middle-aged man and the other kings change dramatically. From the moment they first met until now, the purple-haired youth had displayed a terrifying soul-eye bloodline technique, a dominating body, a shocking bloodline, and a high-mobility lightning wings technique. They were unable to guess what other abilities this mysterious youth had. Bastard, you should forgive people wherever possible. The expression of the yellow-robed middle-aged man was grim. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng stood side by side in the air with cold expressions. Their purple hair blew in the wind, and they looked wicked and unfathomable. The three kings looked at each other, and helplessness could be seen in their eyes. In the end, the yellow-robed middle-aged man gritted his teeth and threw the flaming chariot toward Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng. Whoosh! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng leapt onto the flaming chariot. This chariot was very old, and it could carry 6 or 7 people at most. When after injecting true yuan into it, the chariot released a layer of green flames. At the same time, an azure barrier covered the surface of the chariot and blocked the wind outside. Not bad. Zhao Feng nodded his head and called back the ugly female scorpion man. Flying in a high-level dimension like the divine illusion dimension was very difficult, but this flying tool was powered by crystals and could be infused with true yuan to increase its speed. Whoosh! The three kings watched as the two boarded the flaming chariot and left in a flashy manner. How dare you! These two bastards! This flaming chariot is our biggest spoil of war in the divine illusion dimension. The three kings were filled with hatred and anger, and they started to tremble. They originally wanted to take the water elemental treasures from Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng, but they ended up being the ones who took them. However, they didn't dare to stay any longer, and they led the three forces behind them in a certain direction. I can't vent my anger. The black-robed youth gritted his teeth. I still have the communication tool I used to work with Xian Wuheng. If he's still nearby, we should be able to contact him. The black-robed youth took out a special silver crystal horn. Within the divine illusion dimension, many communication tools weren't working. Some high-grade communication tools could still be used, but the distance was greatly limited. There's a response. The white-robed youth revealed a joyful expression. Half a day later, the three kings led a group of more than 200 elites and arrived in front of an old tomb. You're here. On top of the tombstone stood an ordinary man in green clothes. His eyes were deep and his face was filled with endless ripples, giving him a feeling of vicissitudes. Xian Wuheng. The hearts of the yellow-robed middle-aged kings shook. They had worked together with Xian Wuheng for a short period of time before falling out. Soon after, Xian Wuheng understood why the three kings had come. I can help you guys get back at them. But before that, the three of you need to work with me to excavate the treasures in this tomb. As for the profits, we'll split it 60-40. I'll take 60%, and you guys take 40%. Xian Wuheng said. Hearing this, the expressions of the yellow-robed middle-aged kings and the others changed. Xian Wuheng, you still need us to team up with your strength? The black-robed youth asked. I'm alone, so my strength is limited. With your teamwork, we'll be able to conquer this tomb faster and easier. Xian Wuheng wasn't surprised. A small portion of the geniuses that entered the divine illusion dimension worked alone. However, some exploratory missions were very difficult for a single person. The more people there were, the more power there was. Everyone's intelligence and teamwork would be more effective. Zhao Feng understood this as well. However, he and Xian Wuheng walked different paths. Zhao Feng directly stole other people's resources and benefits. The advantage of this method was that it saved a lot of effort, but the disadvantage was that it was very risky, and it was easy to make enemies. Once Zhao Feng left the divine illusion dimension, he would find that he had unknowingly offended many forces and prodigies. Xian Wuheng was more gentle. His values didn't allow him to steal from others. Sure. It's a deal. The yellow-robed middle-aged king and the three kings agreed after talking. Compared to them, Xian Wuheng was kinder. At least he wouldn't steal for no reason. At the bottom of the cliff, next to a stream, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongxing returned to the secret location and started to cultivate. I now have the crystal core of a king, the sky water crystal lotus, and the jellyfish essence. My cultivation will increase dramatically. Zhao Feng started to think. His first goal was obviously to break through to the Great Origin Core realm. However, Zhao Feng's path of cultivation had also changed. The mutated Blood Devil Sun bloodline has the ability to absorb blood and recover energy, which allows my recovery speed to reach a terrifying level. Therefore, the amount of true yuan I have isn't very important to me. Zhao Feng's eyes twinkled as he made a decision. The higher the quality of his true yuan, the more battle power he could unleash. The more true yuan he had, the longer he could last. However, the mutated bloodline made Zhao Feng even more extreme. In the divine illusion dimension, he focused on increasing the quality and strength of his true yuan in order to increase his explosive power. Chapter 823. At the bottom of the cliff, beside the gurgling stream, Zhao Feng sat cross-legged and focused on cultivating. Beside him, the little thieving cat played with the dark gold necklace on its neck, lazily guarding its master. Jellyfish Essence, King Crystal Core, two precious treasures appeared in Zhao Feng's hand, corresponding to the water and lightning elements. Amongst them, the King Wind Lightning Crystal Core contained the essence of wind and lightning, which could be said to be very vast. Only a small portion of it had been consumed. However, the jellyfish essence had already been consumed by 50 to 60%, and there wasn't much left. But now that Zhao Feng had the Heaven Water Crystal Lotus of a higher grade, he wasn't stingy anymore. With enough resources, Zhao Feng's current cultivation path was extremely smooth and didn't have any bottlenecks. His soul and domain were both strong enough. His 5-elemental wind lightning technique was close to the peak of the 6th level, and his mastery of the technique was also ahead of his cultivation. However, right now, Zhao Feng was focusing on the strength and quality of his quintessential essence. The number of crystal cores and the increase of his cultivation were secondary. Not long after. Buzz! Pong! A deep blue whirlpool appeared above Zhao Feng's head. Wind and lightning danced in the air with great power. This scene had even surpassed some Great Origin Core realms and was comparable to half-step Void God realms. Time flew by. The power of the jellyfish essence was constantly being consumed. Zhao Feng did not feel any heartache at all. He continuously refined and compressed his quintessence. The crystal core in his body only expanded naturally. One day and one night passed. Kacha! The jellyfish essence in Zhao Feng's hand immediately shattered and turned into powder. At this moment, the size of Zhao Feng's crystal core was close to the peak small origin core realm, but the quality and strength of his true yuan were close to the late-stage great origin core realm. At the same time, the dream realm spirit fruit in Zhao Feng's body was also being absorbed to purify his true yuan and strengthen his body. The effects of the Dreamland Spirit Fruit allowed Zhao Feng's veritable essence to move closer to its essence, giving it a primitive feeling that originated from the primeval era. My current true yuan is close to the late-stage Great Origin Core realm, but its true power is close to the half-step Void God realm. Zhao Feng murmured. The material plane. His battle power was split between the sacred lightning body and the wind lightning technique, as well as the amplification from his bloodline. His sacred lightning body had reached the peak stages of the 4th level, and it was the foundation of his powerful body. He could already fight against normal kings. The previous battle. Zhao Feng focused on the sacred lightning body and used the wind lightning technique to strengthen his intent, agility, and speed. Heaven Crystal Lotus. Zhao Feng spread open his hands, and a pure white lotus of light that seemed like a crystal appeared on his palm. It was translucent and flawless like a dreamlike crystal. The moment this crystal lotus appeared, it caused a surge of water origin energy to vibrate. Rumble. Waves surged out of nowhere in the nearby waters. Some water elemental demon spirits sensed it. This was the phenomenon brought about by the sky crystal lotus. Even the ice water bloodline and ice imperial spear within Zhao Feng's body started to tremble in excitement. Zhao Feng's ice water bloodline was a byproduct of the god's spiritual eye. Right now, this bloodline was mainly used for defense and healing, while the mutated Blood Devil Sun bloodline was used for offense. One for offense and one for defense. Zhao Feng's bloodline was more perfect than it was in his previous life. Wenhu, the power of the sky water crystal lotus and the crystal core of a king rushed toward Zhao Feng. At this point in time, the dark blue whirlpool above Zhao Feng's head became bigger and bigger, and thick clouds of lightning condensed. The water elemental demon spirits that were attracted by the sky water crystal lotus all avoided it and didn't dare to steal it. Zhao Feng suddenly felt the ice water bloodline and ice imperial spear within his body become restless. The ice imperial spear was originally in the form of an icy blue liquid, and it had fused with his bloodline. When the power of the sky water crystal lotus was absorbed into his body, a portion of it rushed into his bloodline and was absorbed by the ice imperial spear. This change surprised Zhao Feng. However, after thinking about it, Zhao Feng understood the reason. That was because the sky water crystal lotus was a water elemental treasure that surpassed the crystal element and the plant element. It was also a water elemental crystal mine that could be used to forge heaven-grade weapons and inheritance sacred weapons. Zhao Feng watched quietly and didn't stop it. Bow! Bow! The power of the sky water crystal lotus merged into Zhao Feng's body and split into two. One of them was gentle and cool, and it was absorbed by Zhao Feng's body and crystal core. The other one was even more domineering and cold. It turned into a layer of crystal-like lotus petals and was absorbed by the ice water bloodline and ice imperial spear. I see. The plant elemental part is suitable for the human body to absorb, while the mineral part is suitable for forging water elemental weapons and inheritance treasures. Zhao Feng understood. This change undoubtedly greatly increased the efficiency of the heaven water crystal lotus's usage. Otherwise, if Zhao Feng used it for cultivation, the efficiency would be on the low side, and he would need to refine it to get rid of the unsuitable parts. Half a day later. The crystal core in Zhao Feng's body unknowingly expanded, and it was like a bottomless pond. As expected of a water elemental treasure. It allowed me to break through to the great origin core realm so quickly. Zhao Feng laughed. The sky water crystal lotus and the crystal core allowed Zhao Feng to cultivate without any bottlenecks. At the same time, Zhao Feng's 5 elemental wind lightning technique had reached the peak 6th level, or even the limit. The 7th level would be the 5 elements, water, wood, and water. At that time, Zhao Feng would have a second true yuan, wood of wind lightning. The 5 elemental wind lightning allowed Zhao Feng to have many different abilities, and he didn't have to worry about being countered. The downside was that it was complicated, and his cultivation speed was slow. However, after the sacred lightning body was formed from the 5 elemental wind lightning, it would be extremely resistant to the 5 elements of heaven and earth. It could be said that there were gains and losses. Congratulations. Nan Gongsheng smiled and congratulated from not far away. He watched as Zhao Feng's strength recovered step by step. Nan Gongsheng's emotions were complicated, but he was also looking forward to seeing the left-eyed heavenly emperor at his peak. Of course, Nan Gongsheng's increase in strength wasn't any weaker. The evil god crystal and several dozen substandard god crystals had made his spatial domain become more solid, and it was much stronger than normal spatial domains. Apart from that, his crystal core had successfully merged with the higher-tier power of the god crystals. In terms of the quality and strength of his true yuan, Nan Gongsheng had already surpassed kings of the same cultivation. However, as his strength increased rapidly, Nan Gongsheng felt that he was being affected by the wicked power of the evil god crystal. Luckily, he had the soul calming pearl with him. The soul calming pearl was a legendary soul weapon that could stabilize the mind and condense intent. It could even block some soul Dao attacks and get rid of mental demons. If not, the increase in Nan Gongsheng's strength was due to the wicked power of the evil god crystal twisting his heart. However, even the soul calming pearl wasn't enough to let Nan Gongsheng relax. He wasn't able to completely block the wicked power from entering his intent. After all, the evil god crystal was a god crystal, and apparently, it was formed from the divine power of the evil god. Water soul pearl. Nan Gongsheng let out a breath, and a half-transparent glass pearl appeared in his hand. The water soul pearl was a product of the sky water crystal lotus, and it had the ability to cleanse and strengthen the soul. Through this pearl, Nan Gongsheng's soul was cleansed, and it became stronger. His mind started to become clearer. Luckily, Zhao Feng reminded me. Nan Gongsheng condensed his intent and circulated his true yuan to refine the power of the evil god crystal. Another day and night passed. 60% of the water elemental essence of the sky water crystal lotus was absorbed by the ice imperial spear, and 40% was stored by Zhao Feng. The aura of the ice imperial spear in his bloodline was close to the sky locking bow and the Qiankuan sword. Zhao Feng couldn't help but nod his head. The ice imperial spear was a very practical weapon, and it had been strengthened once in the Heaven's Legacy race city. This time, it was strengthened. Then, it merged with the sky water crystal lotus, which was a top-tier water elemental treasure, and it was almost perfect. The remaining 40% of the sky water crystal lotus was warm and cool. After being absorbed by Zhao Feng's body, most of it was still stored in his body. At this moment, Zhao Feng's crystal core was only at the early stage Great Origin Core realm, but its power and quality were several times stronger than others of the same cultivation. If I absorb all the remaining power of the sky water crystal lotus, the quality of my true yuan will be comparable to a half-step void god realm. Zhao Feng's eyes twinkled. After several days of secluded cultivation, Zhao Feng's strength had greatly increased. Right now, Zhao Feng's golden Kuan sacred lightning body was at the peak 4th level, and he was facing a bottleneck. The 5 elemental wind lightning technique was at the peak 6th level. He had a chance to break through to the 7th level of the wind lightning technique, but he needed experience and foundation. There's still one more left. Zhao Feng ate another spiritual fruit from the ancient dream realm. There was only one left on the tree in the ancient dream realm. The spiritual fruit from the ancient dream realm could strengthen one's bloodline and body, and it also had the effect of purifying one's true yuan. Zhao Feng planned to use the last one at a critical moment. Once his sacred lightning body broke through to the 5th level, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. His soul might even reach the next level. However, the soul Dao treasures that Zhao Feng needed weren't easy to find even in the divine illusion dimension. Next to the stream, Zhao Feng's aura slowly retracted, and his control over his power was perfect. It was hard to imagine that he had just broken through to the Great Origin Core realm. From the looks of it, Zhao Feng was just a normal Great Origin Core realm. He would be a rare genius even in a 3-star power if he was able to reach the Great Origin Core realm at the age of his current body. Zhao Feng, there seems to be a disturbance in heaven and earth nearby, and the auras of many humans are approaching. Nan Gongsheng suddenly said. Zhao Feng opened his eyes and nodded his head. The little thieving cat's ears also twitched. At the same moment, a corrosive air shot into the sky from a tattered tomb in the distance. Boom! Violent tremors came from the depths of the tomb under the tombstone, accompanied by earth-shaking roars and roars. Xin Wuheng, how dare you lead us to such a dangerous place? The yellow-robed middle-aged man roared. A terrifying wicked aura suddenly awakened in the depths of the tomb. You outsiders have disturbed the peace of the dead. You will all be buried here. Whoosh! 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 A powerful group in the distance was alerted by this aura and carefully approached. Eighth Prince, the senses of the spiritual connection mouse can't be wrong. It's here. A black-robed muscular youth with thick eyebrows said confidently. Gee! In his palm, there was a slippery little silver mouse with long antennae at the corner of its mouth. Luo Zun, you've done a lot in the divine illusion dimension this time. I didn't pay a huge price to help you come in. The eighth prince had a smile on his face. Chapter 824. This group of elites also came from the Great Gan Imperials, and the ones leading them were the eighth prince and Luo Zun. Their auras were stronger than when they were in the Tianfeng Great Island Zone. This was especially so for Luo Zun. 2 different auras of fire and ice shot out of his eyes. At this moment, the sinister aura coming from the depths of the tomb grew stronger and stronger. A part of the heavenly void was surrounded by dark clouds and ghostly mist. There's an aura of the Tao of ghost corpses within the tomb that's close to an emperor. The eighth prince and Luo Zun revealed solemn expressions. The Imperial's elites set up a formation nearby to deal with any emergencies. The divine senses of the eighth prince and Luo Zun entered the stone tablet tomb and found an underground tomb. At this moment, some of the arrays and restrictions within the tomb seemed to have been destroyed by someone, or else they wouldn't have been able to easily see what was inside. Rumble. Boom. Tremors came from the underground tomb, and there seemed to be several kings battling. The material of the tomb was extremely tough, and even half-step kings would find it difficult to damage it. Otherwise, even a castle would shatter. Ignorant outsider. You'll be the next batch of people to be buried with me. It was a skeleton with only half a body. It was 6 meters tall, and its entire body was burning with a layer of dark red flames. Apart from the head, the lower half of the skeleton only had half of its body, and it only had one eye socket. Behind the half-skeleton, the shadow of a giant 4-winged demon made of flames appeared and let out a soul-stirring roar. The image of the 4-winged monster was extremely big and spat out clouds of flames. It gave off a domineering aura that could suppress heaven and earth. Even though it was just an image, it gave off the intent of an emperor. Although the skeleton looked weak, every time it attacked, it could draw the will and power of a great emperor. I'll attract its attention, and you two try to trap it. A normal-looking male in azure clothes had a solemn expression, and his voice was slightly hurried. His hands moved as a mystic intent surrounded his body, and the intent in his eyes was close to that of an emperor. Boom! 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 The emperor intent and power that the half-skeleton summoned was blocked by the male in azure clothes with a profound method. In terms of strength, there was a clear gap between the azure-robed man and the half-skeleton. The green-clothed man felt like he was walking on a tightrope. If he made a slight mistake, he would be smashed by half of the skeleton. Even if he didn't die, he would lose a layer of skin. However, the green-robed man's face remained calm, as if it was made by the heavens, giving off the demeanor of a grandmaster. As expected of Xin Wuheng, he actually managed to restrain the great emperor-level skeleton. The yellow-robed middle-aged king and the other 2 kings were sweating. Just now, when the half-skeleton had suddenly awakened, a terrifying and boundless evil aura had suffocated everyone. Then, the emperor-level power and will of the 4-winged shadow made everyone fall into despair. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Xin Wuheng stabilized the situation. Set the formation. The yellow-robed middle-aged man and the other 2 kings supported Xin Wuheng and restricted the half-skeleton. The group of elites behind them quickly set up a sealing array that countered the ghosts. We'll first isolate the corpse chi of this area. At the end of the day, that half-skeleton is dead. It can only release the battle power of an emperor with the help of the four-winged shadow. Once it loses the support of the outside world, its battle power will become weaker. Smiles appeared on the faces of the youth in azure clothes and the youth in white. After all, the half-skeleton was dead and didn't have enough intelligence. It couldn't even use 70% of its emperor-level battle power. After we kill this half-skeleton, we'll try to get the treasures within the coffin. Their gazes turned toward the depths of the tomb, where an ancient bronze coffin was hanging in the air. Under the impact of the afterglow of the battle, the surface of the bronze coffin splashed with a layer of gorgeous and simple light patterns, faintly revealing a wisp of treasure aura that made one's soul tremble. Just the ancient bronze coffin alone was made of materials that were close to heaven-grade weapons. Above the ground, in the air, it's him. Xian Wuheng. The 8th prince and Luo Xun were unable to hide the shock on their faces. I didn't think that Xian Wuheng would be able to single-handedly stall an emperor-level battle power, even if it's dead. Luo Xun took a deep breath, and his eyes were like lightning as the auras of fire and cold intertwined. Suddenly, Luo Xun's battle intent surged, and the outline of fire and cold faintly appeared around him. Dual domains. If other kings were here, their expressions would change dramatically. Brother Luo, wait. Now isn't the time to fight. Benefits are the most important. The 8th prince had a faint smile. Schwa. The dual domains of fire and cold faintly appeared around Luo Xun's body, and they quickly retracted. The phenomenon just now was only because Xian Wuheng's appearance had ignited Luo Xun's battle intent. After all, losing to Xian Wuheng was a huge humiliation. At this moment, Xian Wuheng and the other kings were in an intense battle with the large group. This was the time for the two to reap the benefits. That's right. In a head-on fight, the number of kings and their group is stronger than ours. Luo Xun's mouth curled up. At the critical moment, Luo Xun didn't mind dealing a heavy blow. Within the underground tomb, Xian Wuheng's eyebrows furrowed as he fought with the skeleton. It was obvious that he had sensed the presence of the 8th prince, Luo Xun, and company, and the nearby forces would strike while the iron was hot. Invisibly. Xian Wuheng's side had to be extremely cautious with every step they took. Luckily, that half of the skeleton was quickly trapped in the sealing formation of the three forces, and its threat gradually decreased. At this point in time, the advantage of being a team could be seen. If it were Zhao Feng and Nan Gongxing alone, they wouldn't be able to do this and restrict this emperor-level ghost step by step. Should we make a move? Let's disrupt their plan first. Luo Xun had a wicked smile. I feel like Xian Wuheng is still holding back. The 8th prince hesitated. Xian Wuheng was the right-hand man of the 4th prince, who was the crown prince's biggest competitor. Of course, the 4th prince was over 100 years old, and his cultivation was too strong. He wasn't able to enter the divine illusion dimension. This time, there were 3 princes that entered the divine illusion dimension, the 8th prince, the 9th prince, and the 13th prince. Of the 3 princes, the 8th prince had the deepest foundation. Although the 9th prince was the most talented, he was half a bastard and was slightly weaker than the other princes. The 13th prince was the youngest and average in all aspects, but the sacred emperor doted on him the most. Gee! Right at this moment, the spiritual rat on Luo Xun's shoulder gave off an urgent cry and pointed in a certain direction. Luo Xun and the 8th prince's thoughts were interrupted. This spiritual rat was a rare beast that Luo Xun had obtained by chance when he was young, and it was extremely intelligent. In terms of battle power, the spiritual rat was very average. However, it had a natural ability to sense the auras of treasures. At the same time, it specialized in digging holes and knew how to use earth escape. Luo Xun was able to become the #1 genius of the Great Island Zone and stand out in the Great Gon Lord dynasty not only because of his talent and hard work, but also because of the help of this spiritual rat. Looking back at the first few decades of his life, this spiritual rat had brought him many fortuitous encounters. One or two of them had even changed his fate. This time, the 8th prince paid a huge price to bring Luo Xun into the divine illusion dimension. One of the reasons was because of the spiritual rat's advantage. In order to increase the chances of success, Luo Xun had been suppressing his cultivation and only formed his dual domains after entering the divine illusion dimension. That's. Luo Xun and the 8th prince saw an ancient flaming chariot flying through the air. In reality, the aura radiating from this tomb was too shocking, and it attracted the attention of many nearby outsiders. There were also some groups or people watching from afar. However, these groups and forces didn't have any void god realm kings present, so they didn't dare to interfere. That flying chariot seems to be a product of the Heaven's Legacy race. The 8th prince revealed a weird expression. The owner of the flaming chariot wasn't simple. It's him. Luo Xun exclaimed as he saw the two figures on the flaming chariot. Both of them had purple hair. Luo Xun and the 8th prince didn't recognize one of them, but Luo Xun would recognize the handsome youth with purple hair even if he was burned to ashes. Purple-haired demonic duo. Nearby, some of the experts who were spying on him cried out in surprise. Everyone, put away your treasures. Keep your distance. The purple-haired demonic duo are famous for stealing, and they've never failed. They're a weird team. One of the groups couldn't help but tremble when they heard the name, purple-haired demonic duo. One of the groups even ran away in panic. Soon after, the flashy flaming chariot floated in the air above the tomb. Zhe, what fate! I've met so many familiar people this time. Zhao Feng laughed. He had said this when he had a clear understanding of the underground tomb. Luo Xun and the 8th prince had unnatural expressions. They thought that Zhao Feng was talking about them. Meow meow. A silver-gray cat appeared on Zhao Feng's shoulder, and it bared its teeth and smiled. Gee! Gee! The spiritual rat on Luo Xun's shoulder trembled in fear and didn't dare to look at the little thieving cat. How? Luo Xun had a weird expression. His spiritual rat's battle power wasn't strong, but its rank was close to a rare bloodline beast of the 10,000 ancient races. Could it be that Zhao Feng's little thieving cat had reached the level of a rare bloodline beast of the 10,000 ancient races? At this moment in time, the spiritual rat started to tremble after seeing the little thieving cat. It was like a mouse seeing a cat. Little thieving cat, don't scare this little friend. Zhao Feng reached out and put the little thieving cat into his ancient metal ring. The little thieving cat was his killing move in the divine illusion dimension, and Zhao Feng didn't want it to be exposed prematurely. Within the underground tomb, Xian Wuheng and company were in the middle of an intense battle. Although they felt the new aura, they didn't have the heart to observe it. Luo Xun's expression was grim as he put away the spiritual rat. For some reason, he felt like he was losing every time he faced Zhao Feng. The 8th prince also felt disgusted. Next to Zhao Feng was a domain-level king with a powerful aura. From the reactions of the surrounding groups and experts, it seemed that the purple-haired demonic duo was quite famous. They had scared away a group of people. There seems to be the aura of a soul Dao treasure under this tomb, although it's of the Dao of ghosts. Zhao Feng's heart moved. The two of them stood on the other side and watched as if no one else was present. Just a measly origin core realm. Luo Xun suppressed his anger and had the urge to teach Zhao Feng a lesson, but the 8th prince stopped him. The two of you have just arrived. Do you two want to team up for the benefits below? The 8th prince had an elegant and warm smile. Chapter 825. Since the two of you have just arrived, do you want to team up and fight for the benefits below? The 8th prince's suggestion surprised Zhao Feng. Luo Xun and the 8th prince obviously disliked Xiao Feng. Luo Xun suppressed his anger and the urge to attack. This suggestion surprised Luo Xun even more. This Xiao Feng isn't simple. He received Duke Nanfeng's recognition and favor. Right now, Xian Wuheng is the biggest enemy. The 8th prince's eyes twinkled as he started to think. At this moment, the battle prowess displayed by Xian Wuheng, who was below the mausoleum, had already far surpassed their expectations. Furthermore, Xian Wuheng still had 3 Void God Realm kings and 3 groups from different forces. The 8th prince and Luo Xun were at an obvious disadvantage in terms of the number of experts and the strength of the groups. Therefore, the 8th prince's suggestion was a very logical choice. There were no eternal enemies, only eternal benefits. This suggestion isn't bad. A smile appeared on Xiao Feng's face as his thoughts spun. Right now, Xian Wuheng's side had the advantage in numbers, and they were too strong, which affected the balance of the situation. Everyone was surprised that Xiao Feng agreed so quickly. Back in the Tianfeng Great Island Zone, the enmity between Luo Xun and Xiao Feng was hard to resolve. Xiao Feng and the 8th prince didn't like each other either. But I have my conditions. Xiao Feng paused. The 8th prince and Luo Xun looked at each other and were surprised. No matter how they looked at it, this Xiao Feng didn't seem like a 14-year-old youth. There was also something else. The purple-haired demonic duo seemed to be led by Xiao Feng, and the wicked nose ring youth with a powerful aura seemed to be on the second line. The 8th prince and Luo Xun couldn't see through this purple-haired youth. What do you want? The 8th prince was very interested in the suggestion. There's only one request. When we make our move later, you guys will deal with Xian Wuheng. As for the treasures in the coffins, it will depend on your own strength. Xiao Feng said slowly. The 8th prince and Luo Xun frowned. Xian Wuheng was an unfathomable character. With the strength he was displaying right now, the 8th prince and Luo Xun would have to team up to deal with him. Meanwhile, the two of them and Nan Gongseng found this strange. From Xiao Feng's tone, it seemed like he knew Xian Wuheng. Alright. The 8th prince and Luo Xun agreed after some thought. After all, the purple-haired demonic duo had to deal with the other 3 kings, and the pressure on them would be even greater. However, what they didn't know was that the yellow-robed middle-aged king and the other 3 kings had already been defeated by the purple-haired demonic duo. At this moment, the tremors in the underground tomb had decreased by a little. It's almost done. The yellow-robed middle-aged king, the 3 kings, and the group behind them had successfully bound the skeleton. Wu the half-skeleton struggled with all its might. The 4-winged demonic phantom behind it fiercely waved, creating a world-shaking sensory impact. But most of it was limited to the soul, so Xian Wuheng resolved it. The soul intent that Xian Wuheng displayed was close to that of an emperor. In terms of intent alone, it was comparable to an emperor. When a triangular, colorful ceiling formation sealed off half of the skeleton, and golden chains of light extended out, binding it layer by layer. Seeing that half of the skeleton was about to be successfully sealed, Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. As long as it was sealed for a short while, they would have the ability to take the bronze coffins. Watch out! Xian Wuheng exclaimed at the critical moment. Whoosh! 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 Right at this moment, surges of powerful auras charged into the depths of the tomb through the best shortcut. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Xian Wuheng, I can't believe this day has come for you. Luo Xun roared with a deadly expression. At this moment, Xian Wuheng and company used all their strength and finally managed to seal the half-skeleton. As soon as he finished speaking, boom! A domain of ice and fire appeared behind Luo Xun, and a red and blue aura charged toward Xian Wuheng. In that instant, Luo Xun's eyes turned dark blue and scarlet red respectively. The entire region was suddenly enveloped by the terrifying power of fire and ice, and their mental energy and physical body started to suffer indescribable pain. This Luo Xun has hidden himself very well. His true battle power is close to Jiu Wuji's. He's just lacking a bit of foundation. Zhao Feng's expression changed slightly. In order to increase the chances of entering the divine illusion dimension, Luo Xun had suppressed his cultivation. After entering the divine illusion dimension, he was able to complete the outline of his 2 domains. 2 domains. Unfortunately, the foundation is too weak, and there are many flaws. Xian Wuheng smiled faintly as he faced Luo Xun's attack. He turned around slightly and freed one hand. What? The 8th prince, Luo Xun, Nan Gongsheng, and company were all stunned. From the looks of it, Xian Wuheng was planning on using one hand to seal the half-skeleton while using the other to deal with the 8th prince. This Xian Wuheng. This was the first time Nan Gongsheng had seen Xian Wuheng. Apart from Zhao Feng, this was the first time he had seen such an unfathomable person. Break! Xian Wuheng pointed out with his finger, and a compressed fire and ice domain shot out and pushed Luo Xun's 2-layered domain away. Peng! Luo Xun's body was pushed back as his blood boiled. He said in disbelief, "How is this possible? Could you have comprehended the fire and ice domain as well?" At this moment in time, Luo Xun's heart was filled with a strong sense of defeat and humiliation. The difference between them hadn't changed at all from last time until now. But now, Xian Wuheng still used one hand to fight against Luo Xun and pushed him back. Ha ha ha. As expected of Xian Wuheng. That half of the skeleton is about to be sealed. The yellow-robed middle-aged king and the other 3 kings roared with laughter. Once it was sealed, Xian Wuheng and the other 3 would be able to attack. However, the expressions of the yellow-robed middle-aged king and company soon became grim. Whoosh! 2 purple-haired males appeared in the center of the tomb. Hee hee, so it's the 5 elemental domain. Zhao Feng laughed lightly as his gaze scanned over Xian Wuheng, who had unleashed the fire and ice domain. At this moment in time, Xian Wuheng used one hand to draw a twisted crystal wall in the air to block Luo Xun's attack and the 8th prince's attack. Who are you? Hearing this voice, Xian Wuheng's expression changed slightly as he glanced at the purple-haired youth. The purple-haired youth was only at the origin core realm, but Xian Wuheng couldn't see through him. He felt that this youth was familiar, but he couldn't remember where. After all, Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng hadn't seen each other for more than 9 years. More importantly, Zhao Feng's appearance, cultivation technique, and even soul aura were completely different from when he was in the sacred True Dragon gathering. Back then, Zhao Feng's hair was still blue, but it was purple now, and he hadn't opened his left eye bloodline yet. Go! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng were covered by a layer of silver and purple as they headed toward the bronze coffin behind them. Bastard, don't even think about it. The expressions of the yellow-robed middle-aged man and company changed dramatically as they roared in anger. The 3 kings left the formation and attacked to stop Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng. When Nan Gongsheng snickered coldly as a rippling silver and purple domain appeared around him and absorbed the power of the 3 kings. What a powerful spatial domain. This bastard's strength is increasing so quickly. The hearts of both friend and foe shook. Nan Gongsheng's spatial domain and true yuan radiated an invisible pressure that made the true yuan of the other kings tremble. Xian Wuheng, the 8th prince, Luo Xun, and company all had solemn expressions. Ice Imperial Barrier. A layer of blue ice water flowed around Zhao Feng's body and turned into a bright barrier of ice and lightning. Boom! 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 Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng's defense was impregnable. After fusing with the celestial water crystal lotus, the power of the ice imperial spear had risen to another level. Adding on Nan Gongsheng's powerful spatial domain, they were able to charge toward the coffin without any resistance. Not good. Xian Wuheng realized that the situation had gone out of control. One of the purple-haired demonic duo, the youth with the nose ring, had a unique ability and shocking battle power. As for the other youth with purple hair, even he couldn't see through him. He was sure that the yellow-robed middle-aged man and company weren't their match. However, at this moment, Xian Wuheng was barely able to seal the skeleton and barely block the combined attacks of Luo Zun and the Eighth Prince. The Eighth Prince's strength was slightly stronger than the Eighth Prince's, and he seemed to be holding back. Boom! When the ancient bronze hanging coffin in the depths of the tomb splashed with gorgeous ancient patterns of light, which were overflowing with light. Zhao Feng and company were attacked by the three kings when they arrived, and they landed on the bronze coffin as well. This coffin is actually an important material for forging heaven-grade weapons and sacred weapons of the wicked Tao, the mystic Yin ancient bronze. The Eighth Prince took a deep breath as he inspected the coffin. If he could obtain this bronze coffin, it would be of great help to the imperial family and the accumulation of his power. However, Zhao Feng wasn't very interested in the mystic Yin ancient bronze. Instead, it was the wicked aura of a soul Tao treasure that was extremely tempting to him. This was because Zhao Feng only needed to strengthen his soul a bit more and he would be able to awaken his emperor intent. This would increase his strength by leaps and bounds. Open! Zhao Feng roared as he kicked toward the bronze coffin. This brat dares to kick the mystic Yin ancient bronze? Not only is this material tough, it also contains a terrifying wicked power. The Eighth Prince and Luo Zun couldn't help but reveal mocking expressions. Bam! Bam! Zhao Feng's foot landed on the bronze coffin, and a soul-shaking explosion resounded across the entire underground tomb as a powerful wave of air and dust covered the area. The power and strength of that kick made the blood of everyone present tremble. What a strong body! Waves appeared in the hearts of the Eighth Prince and Luo Zun. They hadn't seen each other for a few months, and Zhao Feng had already grown to such a level. Creak! Under the tyrannical force of that kick, the bronze coffin's mouth moved a tiny slit, and waves of shocking treasure light burst out. There was a wicked soul Tao aura that made everyone's souls feel pressured. This was the soul Tao treasure that Zhao Feng needed. Zhao Feng's figure shook slightly as green flames spat out from his green shoes. A layer of bright red flames destroyed the mystic Yin from the mystic Yin ancient bronze. What a precise kick! Xian Wuheng couldn't help but cheer from not far away. Chapter 826. Only Xian Wuheng could see the power contained in Zhao Feng's kick. Just brute force alone would be enough to injure a void god realm king with the toughness of the ancient bronze coffin and the mystic Yin backlash. No matter how strong Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body was, he wouldn't be able to come out unscathed. However, his kick just happened to land on the weak point of the ancient bronze coffin's defensive power, and it pushed his physical strength into the opening of the coffin. At the same time, the green shoes on Zhao Feng's feet protected him. As for the mystic Yin backlash from the mystic Yin ancient bronze, it was neutralized by Zhao Feng's mutated blood devil sun bloodline. What a strong mystic Yin power! Zhao Feng's figure shook slightly as he felt the wicked power contained within the ancient bronze coffin. However, this item didn't have much of an effect on him. The soul Tao treasure within the coffin was what moved Zhao Feng the most. Bam! Zhao Feng's second kick landed on the opening of the ancient bronze coffin with even more dominating power. Bam! This time, the majority of the coffin was kicked open by Zhao Feng. Boom! The wicked aura of treasures shot into the sky, and the entire underground tomb turned dark and bright. Inside the coffin was a skeleton that had fallen apart. Amongst them, the most obvious and largest was a cloud silk robe. Its entire body flowed with strands of jade luster, and it was placed beneath the skeleton. Then, there was a piece of jade the size of a baby's palm that radiated a warm fragrance that filled the entire coffin. Apart from that, there were also some accessories and items that weren't simple. Brat! Don't even think about taking all the treasures for yourself. The yellow-robed middle-aged king and the other two kings teamed up, and their magnificent power merged into a brownish-yellow domain. Boom! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng's figures couldn't help but sink as they clashed with the three kings. Where's that soul Dao treasure? Zhao Feng felt the wicked power of the Dao treasure, but he didn't find its target. Rumble. During the fight, the lid of the bronze coffin flipped over, revealing a purplish-black stone embedded in it. It's the soul-suppressing stone. The eighth prince and Luo Zun suddenly left Xian Wuheng and flew toward the coffins behind them. In fact, the bronze coffin was the closest to Xian Wuheng, but it was blocked by the skeleton. Zhao Feng and the others had to take a detour. By this time, the other half of the skeleton was almost completely sealed. Xian Wuheng turned around and joined the fight for the treasures in the coffins. Bang! Bang! For a moment, the clash between the kings was chaotic and intense. Some of the treasures were thrown into the air during the battle. So it's the soul-suppressing stone. No wonder it absorbed such a shocking amount of baleful Yin soul energy. Zhao Feng wasn't interested in the other treasures. Sacred lightning body. Zhao Feng's silver-blue metallic body grew slightly taller. The invisible patterns of physical force and lightning repelled the surrounding power. Pang! Azure light burst forth from the ancient shoes under his feet, and he was like a raging bull as he charged forward with a domineering force that knocked away the two nearby kings. After that, Zhao Feng reached out and grabbed the soul-suppressing stone. The soul-suppressing stone radiated a strong aura of evil Yin that normal kings didn't dare to approach. Zhao Feng used his powerful body to grab the soul-suppressing stone and used his soul intent to block the corrosion of the baleful Yin soul energy within. What powerful baleful Yin soul energy! Zhao Feng's soul was being corroded by waves of baleful Yin soul energy. Just a few wisps of soul energy caused the nearby kings' hearts to become chaotic, and their souls to be corroded. Seeing this, the nearby kings started to move away from Zhao Feng. The eighth prince and the others looked like they were looking at a monster. The soul-suppressing stone had suppressed and absorbed the energy of countless evil spirits. If they kept it by their side, it would probably interfere with their cultivation. If they were to be wary of their heart demons, it would only bring them harm. Everyone else avoided the soul-suppressing stone. Only Zhao Feng took the initiative to grab this hot potato. Zhe, foolish human. Your body doesn't seem to be too bad. A wicked voice sounded from the soul-suppressing stone. The owner of the voice was a remnant spiritual body intent, similar to the purple saint partial spirit. Sacred Lord partial spirit. Xian Wuheng's expression changed dramatically as he pulled away from the soul-suppressing stone and started to fight for other treasures. Zhe. This thief is really stupid. He missed out on such a good opportunity, but he went to mess with the soul-suppressing stone. The yellow-robed middle-aged king and the other three kings were gloating. The sacred lord partial spirit sealed within the soul-suppressing stone was extremely weak, and it wasn't something normal kings could mess with. Boom! The soul dimension shook, and the sacred lord partial spirit sealed within the demon-suppressing stone laughed wickedly as it charged into the body of the human at the origin core realm. You've brought this upon yourself. Mockery and coldness appeared in Luo Zun's eyes. Bam! At this moment, the other experts started to fight over the treasures that were sent flying in the air. Everyone pulled away from Zhao Feng so that the wicked demonic intent within the demon-suppressing stone wouldn't enter their bodies. Nan Gongsheng was fighting for the cloudworm silk robe that was the largest. His offense and speed were both top tier, and it would be perfect if he had more defensive treasures. Originally, Nan Gongsheng was still worried about Zhao Feng's situation, but a voice sounded in his mind, "Don't worry about me." This voice was very calm and powerful. Nan Gongsheng felt a surge of confidence, and he focused on fighting for the cloudworm silk robe. He thought that the left-eyed heavenly emperor, whose name shook the Tsang Ocean, could even threaten mystic light realm sacred lords at his peak. Zhe. The sacred lord partial spirit laughed wickedly as it charged into Zhao Feng's soul sea. Within the dimension of his left eye, Zhao Feng's purple-colored soul sea was 200 to 300 yards wide, and there was a blue lake in the center. Wait. The expression of the Sacred Lord Partial Spirit changed dramatically when it charged into Zhao Feng's soul sea. It was stunned by the undying aura of God Tribulation Lightning. Such a weak Sacred Lord Partial Spirit. Die. Zhao Feng laughed coldly. With a thought, 100 to 200 wisps of God Tribulation Lightning suddenly lit up in his purple-colored soul sea. What? The aura of the God Tribulation. The Sacred Lord Partial Spirit screamed in fear. Boom! It was as if 10,000 bolts of lightning had struck it, and the Sacred Lord Partial Spirit screamed as it turned into dust. This Sacred Lord Partial Spirit was even weaker than the Purple Saint Partial Spirit from back then, and it wasn't much stronger than the Demigod Partial Spirit. It just had a profound intent and was just putting on an act. It shouldn't have charged into Zhao Feng's soul sea. Zhao Feng's Emperor intent hadn't recovered yet, so his usage of the God Tribulation Lightning was limited. However, it was different when it charged into his soul sea, and it might even suffer the backlash of the God Tribulation Lightning. With just one thought, Zhao Feng turned it into dust. This action also greatly intimidated the other evil remnant souls in the Demon Suppression Stone. Because the aura of the Demon Suppressing Stone had seeped into Zhao Feng's soul sea, the other evil partial spirits trembled in fear. Shua! Zhao Feng grabbed the Demon Suppressing Stone and put it into his ancient metal ring. At this moment in time, the fight around the ancient bronze coffin hadn't ended yet. The Eighth Prince and Luo Zun's target was the coffin itself, and they fought against the yellow-robed middle-aged king and company. With his powerful strength, Xian Wuheng successfully obtained the piece of jade that was emitting a warm fragrance. Nan Gongsheng's abilities were unique, and he managed to obtain the extremely valuable cloud silk robe. At this moment, the largest part of the coffin was split between the Eighth Prince and Luo Zun. The yellow-robed middle-aged king and company weren't a match for the Eighth Prince and Luo Zun, so they managed to obtain a coffin lid. After that, even in the hanging coffins, the competition for the other funerary objects depended entirely on luck and strength. Xian Wuheng, don't let those two bastards go. The cloud silk robe that thief obtained was refined from the cloud silk of the cloud silkworm immortal butterfly. Although this robe is light, its defense is extremely strong. It's impervious to fire and water, and even divine weapons can't break it. It also has a certain immunity against the 5 elements. The yellow-robed middle-aged king and company looked at Nan Gongsheng with hatred. Of the purple-haired demonic duo, Zhao Feng had been invaded by a sacred lord's soul, and he couldn't even protect himself. This meant that Nan Gongsheng would be easier to deal with. A powerful surge of physical power suddenly appeared next to Nan Gongsheng. How did you? The hearts of the yellow-robed middle-aged king and company dropped as they looked at the purple-haired youth in disbelief. How is this possible? Even the invasion of the Sacred Lord's soul didn't work. The Eighth Prince and Luo Zun were stunned as they looked at the purple-haired youth who acted as if nothing had happened. From the looks of it, Zhao Feng didn't seem to have been invaded at all. His aura and expression didn't change at all. If Zhao Feng had been successfully invaded or was controlled by the heart demon, he wouldn't be so calm. In a short period of time, all the elites present were stunned. With Zhao Feng's return, the complete purple-haired demonic duo was enough to make anyone wary. Everyone was wary of Nan Gongsheng's strength. Apart from Xian Wuheng, no one else had the confidence to fight him alone. However, this purple-haired youth was even more unfathomable. He had successfully taken the demon-suppressing stone, and even the invasion of the Sacred Lord's soul was like a rock sinking into the ocean. No matter who you are, I promised these 3 allies. Xian Wuheng had a solemn expression as battle intent surged from his body. It was obvious that he was going to take revenge for the 3 kings. Although he couldn't see through this purple-haired youth, he had a familiar feeling. Xian Wuheng, take a punch from me. Zhao Feng laughed as he pushed the power of his sacred body to the limit, and a pair of rippling wings of water and lightning formed behind his back. In that instant, many of the elites present felt the overwhelming power of the intent realm. Boom! Zhao Feng's simple punch exploded with physical force and created a layer of bright red flames. The rippling wings of water and lightning behind his back fluttered and created a magnificent power that could pierce through heaven and earth. The yellow-robed middle-aged man and the other 3 kings nearby felt their minds shake, and they started to feel dizzy. That seemingly simple punch was infused with a powerful soul Dao domain. A normal king probably wouldn't even be able to fight back. Xin Wuheng's heart shook, and his expression changed dramatically. He took a deep breath, took a step forward, and created a 5-colored whirlpool with a wave of his hand. The 5-colored whirlpool glittered with light, and it seemed to contain everything. When the 2 forces twisted together in an eerie silence. The 5-colored whirlpool spun for a while, and the inside of it was boiling. Chapter 827. Zhao Feng felt as if his attack had sunk into a vast 5-colored ocean and was being buffered and rotated. In his vision, the 5-colored whirlpool twisted and turned, and it seemed to boil. It was obvious that Zhao Feng's mutated Blood Devil Sun bloodline wasn't so easy to deal with. Weng Shuo. The 2 powers clashed in the air for a breath or two, and the 5-colored whirlpool in Xin Wuheng's hand suddenly started to shake and spin. Lightning Wings Flying Technique. The water lightning wings on Zhao Feng's back fluttered, and he flashed above Xin Wuheng. Boom! A roaring wave of 5-colored light engulfed everything in a radius of several dozen feet where Zhao Feng had vanished, turning everything into nothingness. The terrifying 5-elemental backlash made everyone's hearts shake. At the same time, everyone was surprised by Zhao Feng's reaction speed. Otherwise, the backlash would have been able to severely injure domain-level kings. Foresight. Xin Wuheng's eyebrows furrowed slightly, and his body shook slightly. However, he was completely unharmed. The 2 were safe in the first exchange, but it was already a bit dangerous. The difference was that Zhao Feng attacked first, and his soul Dao domain formed the first round of attacks. His body and bloodline instantly exploded, making it hard to defend against. Zhao Feng seemed to have the upper hand, but Xin Wuheng's counterattack was also extremely shocking. Peng! Zhao Feng punched out a second time, and he dove down from the sky. His ancient green shoes gave off a green light, and his wings flapped. At this instant, Zhao Feng's silver-blue body seemed to grow a bit taller. An invisible physical force crushed down, and before it even arrived, it caused one's blood to feel numb. Boom! The instant Zhao Feng dove down, his entire body was bathed in a layer of flames, and he was like a god of war with lightning wings and flames. In this attack, Zhao Feng's speed, power, and bloodline had all reached the extreme. Furthermore, Zhao Feng used the lightning wings flying escape art to launch a sudden attack, suppressing his opponent and seizing the initiative. Xin Wuheng's expression froze. That youth's attack was clumsy, using brute force to suppress others. His concept was profound, but under the most primitive explosion of his body and bloodline, his hands and feet were tied. Whoosh! That terrifying physique and bloodline enveloped him, and it was accompanied by an extremely condensed and powerful soul Dao domain. Even someone as strong as Xin Wuheng's mind was slightly shaken, affected by the disturbance. It was clear that the youth's concept and vision had reached an unimaginable level. The softest thing in the world is water. Xin Wuheng had nowhere to hide. He bent his legs and waved his hands in the air, pushing out a whirling water ripple. The shadow of a bottomless pond was vaguely projected from it. Xin Wuheng. Zhao Feng felt his powerful physique and bloodline explode. He was like a strong man meeting a gentle and quiet beauty, unable to exert any strength. The power of his move was like a volcano. Adding on the initiative of the lightning attack, he had the advantage. However, Xian Wuheng's defense was very simple, using softness to overcome hardness. Zhao Feng's physique was extremely domineering, and his bloodline leaned towards the fire element. It was strong and domineering, burning and exploding. However, Xian Wuheng's profound water power Upanishad and domain had subdued and broken this fierce yang energy. Peng peng. The two figures instantly separated in the air. As Zhao Feng flew backwards, he somersaulted in the air and landed on the other side of the tomb. He smiled lightly. Xian Wuheng, it's been a long time since we last fought. It feels pretty good. Ever since the pursuit of death, Zhao Feng had not met a true opponent. This time, after a short clash, he found the burning desire to fight in the depths of his body. Thump. Thump. Xian Wuheng took 2 steady steps back. He felt as if part of the energy and blood in his body had been sucked away by Zhao Feng during the clash. So, Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng had clashed at close range just now. Close combat was what Xian Wuheng was good at and liked. However, he didn't expect that his opponent's bloodline power would be so strange that it could absorb the energy and blood of others. This kind of ability was simply difficult to deal with, and it was even extremely disgusting. Who exactly are you? Xian Wuheng's eyes were like torches as he stared at Zhao Feng. The more they fought, the more he felt that this young man was very familiar. The other party's words proved that they had met before. However, Xian Wuheng wasn't sure about this person's identity. Whether it was appearance, aura, or cultivation technique, it was hard for him to find someone like this. Furthermore, the body-strengthening technique that Zhao Feng cultivated wasn't very common. In the underground tomb, the 8th prince and Luo Zun were puzzled as they watched this scene. The purple-haired youth in front of them was weird and mysterious. He knew Xian Wuheng and didn't show any fear. Even Xian Wuheng can't see through this brat. The yellow-robed middle-aged king and the other 2 kings felt troubled. In everyone's eyes, Xian Wuheng was an unfathomable person, and he had the aura of a grandmaster. But now, a mysterious youth that could fight against Xian Wuheng had appeared. They were certain. The two had met and even fought before. Hehe, you managed to defeat Xian Wuheng in 10 moves. I hope that you'll give me an even bigger surprise next time. The purple-haired youth in the air flapped his wings and disappeared. Whoosh! Whoosh! A silver and purple light flashed and disappeared from the tomb with Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng. The lightning-fast speed and the perfect teamwork caused the crowd to be unable to react in time. What a fast spatial technique! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng were nowhere to be seen. He couldn't defeat Xian Wuheng in 10 moves. The remaining people looked at each other and became even more wary of the unfathomable purple-haired demonic duo. Xian Wuheng, you know that bastard? Why aren't you stopping those 2 bastards? The yellow-robed middle-aged king and the other 2 kings all spoke. So, it's him. Xian Wuheng looked in the direction that Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng had disappeared in and murmured to himself. Slowly, a memory that had been sealed for a long time appeared in his mind. It came from his youth in Sun Feather City, when the sacred True Dragon Gathering was at its peak. In his memory, there was a youth that rose like a shooting star and created lotuses with each step he took. But how did he become like this? Xian Wuheng couldn't help but think. With his knowledge and the memories from his previous life, it wasn't hard for him to guess techniques like stealing someone else's body and reviving from a drop of blood. Does he still have an eye bloodline that he hasn't used yet? Xian Wuheng asked. That's right. The yellow-robed middle-aged king and the other 2 kings instantly remembered a shocking scene. Before, that youth's eye bloodline had once controlled the river-devouring Kuan. Indeed, he has an eye bloodline. The 8th prince nodded his head. Back in the duke's palace, when Zhao Feng awakened the cloud silkworm Saint Butterfly, he had used his left eye bloodline for a short while. That's what he specializes in and is most terrifying in. I didn't think that he would also cultivate a profound body-strengthening technique. Xin Wuheng had a complex expression. He wouldn't judge Zhao Feng with a simple Great Origin Core realm. When they clashed, he felt that Zhao Feng's intent had very likely reached the level of an emperor. In other words, Zhao Feng's current cultivation was due to him stealing someone else's body, so it was impossible to estimate how strong he was before he took over the body. We're letting them go just like that? The red-robed youth was slightly unwilling. We can't catch up. Xin Wuheng shrugged his shoulders. In the sky, whoosh. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongxing sat on an old flaming chariot that was very eye-catching. Both of them specialized in flying, and their speed was extraordinary. Adding on the fact that this flaming chariot came from the Heaven's Legacy race, they didn't have to worry about the pursuers at all. Zhao Feng, I thought you would have a big fight. I didn't think you would suddenly retreat. Nan Gongxing was slightly regretful. He was looking forward to the battle between Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng. It was a pleasing sight, and he would be able to learn a lot from it. Furthermore, Zhao Feng had the upper hand in the clash just now. Xin Wuheng specializes in defense and dispersal. His true yuan was suppressed to the half-step king level just now. Otherwise, even if we teamed up, we might not be able to beat him. Zhao Feng said. Hearing that, Nan Gongxing's heart shook. Zhao Feng knew that Xin Wuheng liked to suppress his cultivation to the same level as his opponent. In the short fight just now, although Xin Wuheng had used his domain and intent to the maximum, he wasn't able to suppress Zhao Feng in terms of true yuan at all. Luckily, although Xin Wuheng specialized in defense and dispersal, speed wasn't his forte. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongxing could leave if they wanted to. No one could stop them. Several days later, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongxing landed on a cliff. The aura of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon is getting closer and closer. Zhao Feng looked into the distance. Both of them had been following the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon on the way, whether they were robbing or resting. Their luck wasn't bad, and they managed to steal a lot of useful resources. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongxing were determined to follow the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. This dragon seemed to be able to bring them luck. Meow meow. The little thieving cat tossed a few bronze coins into the air and looked in the direction of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's tracks. On the cliff, Nan Gongxing was wearing the Cloud Silkworm silk robe, and it glowed with a green light. Zhao Feng knew that the main material of this robe was the silk of Duke Nanfeng's Cloud Silkworm Saint Butterfly. Although this robe was light, it was impervious to fire and water, and it was immune to all 5 elements. With this robe, Nan Gongxing's survivability and defense would increase dramatically. Zhao Feng had the Ice Imperial Spear and the Sacred Lightning Body, so the Cloud Silkworm silk robe wasn't very useful to him. At the current stage, Zhao Feng was most interested in Tao of the Soul treasures and top-tier resources that could strengthen the body. However, after the battle in the underground tomb, Zhao Feng had finally obtained a Tao of the Soul treasure, the Soul-Suppressing Stone. Whoosh! Zhao Feng took out the purple and black Soul-Suppressing Stone and touched it. At that instant, a shocking aura of a fiendish soul was unleashed, causing the nearby creatures to tremble in fear. Normal kings probably wouldn't even dare to approach the soul-suppressing stone. In order to avoid being affected, Nan Gongxing had to pull away from Zhao Feng. On the other hand, the little thieving cat sat next to its owner and blinked its black eyes. It didn't seem to be affected at all. Although the Yin soul power contained within the soul-suppressing stone is extremely evil, it can still be absorbed after being refined by my God Tribulation Lightning. Excitement and anticipation appeared in Zhao Feng's heart. The soul-suppressing stone was a soul path treasure. It was definitely enough to help him recover his monarch will. Chapter 828. On the cliff, Zhao Feng circulated the 10,000 divine thoughts technique and started to absorb the Yin soul power within the soul-suppressing stone. The aura of Yin within the soul-suppressing stone was extremely strong, and it had suppressed countless souls and remnant intents. However, these negative mental energies had been suppressed for a long time and were very weak. The strongest wisp of Sacred Lord Partial Spirit was instantly killed by Zhao Feng's God Tribulation Lightning, and the other negative mental energy partial thoughts and intents all trembled. Zhao Feng had the God's spiritual eye and was very resilient against soul attacks, which was why he dared to take the soul-suppressing stone. However, Zhao Feng was still very cautious. There were some evil curses in this world that surpassed the level of the physical soul and were extremely hard to deal with. For example, the cursed words of death. Half a day later, after a round of purification, wisps of Yin soul power merged into Zhao Feng's soul sea. The 10,000 divine thoughts technique was just Zhao Feng's first round of purification to remove most of the impurities and negative energies. The second round was the God Tribulation Lightning's aura. All of the Yin soul power had to be cleansed by the God Tribulation Lightning. Finally, the purer soul power merged into the purple soul sea and started to devour and refine it one last time. And so on and so forth. After 3 rounds of purification, the Yin soul power was extremely pure and didn't have any obvious elements. The advantage of this was that there wouldn't be any negative side effects. The disadvantage was that it was slow and complicated. Soul intent is the core of all living beings. It can't be tainted. Zhao Feng was very strict and would rather be slower. Luckily, his mastery of the Tao of the Soul was extraordinary, and the 10,000 divine thoughts technique combined with the God Tribulation Lightning's speed of purification was relatively fast. In the blink of an eye, 5 or 6 days passed. Zhao Feng's purple soul sea had become significantly stronger, and it was now 300 to 400 yards wide. Right now, my soul is comparable to a middle-stage void god realm expert, and my intent is comparable to a peak-tier king and close to an emperor. Zhao Feng's eyes twinkled. At this moment, each of his thoughts contained extraordinary power that was approaching the level of an emperor. Zhao Feng had a feeling that his emperor will was awakening. Once the emperor intent recovered, Zhao Feng's soul Tao secret techniques and eye bloodline techniques would reach a terrifying level. At that time, apart from a small number of people in the divine illusion dimension, most geniuses and elites couldn't fight back against Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng, I've encountered a small bottleneck. Nan Gongxing said. The moment he opened his eyes, they were empty, and a strange purple light flowed within them. The purple blood crescent moon mark on his forehead was extremely eye-catching. A wicked and powerful aura radiated from Nan Gongxing's body, as if he was the ruler of the wicked Tao. Zhao Feng focused and saw that Nan Gongxing's cultivation had reached the peak middle stage of the void god realm, and he was still some distance away from the late stage. Besides, his spatial domain was extremely strong, and his true yuan was even comparable to a peak-tier king. Zhao Feng nodded his head. He had to admit that Nan Gongxing's growth speed wasn't any slower than his own. Let's go and continue chasing. Zhao Feng nodded his head and got up. His soul sea world had absorbed a lot of soul power from the outside world, so it needed some time to digest and refine. Nan Gongxing's bottleneck was the same. Of course, it would be better if there were some rare resources that could condense the soul and cleanse true yuan. The last one. Before leaving, Zhao Feng took out a spiritual fruit from the ancient dream realm and ate it with a sigh. From then on, the spiritual fruits on the trees in the ancient dream realm had all been used up. These spiritual fruits from the ancient dream realm helped Zhao Feng's body, bloodline, and true yuan greatly. Even if the last spiritual fruit from the ancient dream realm wasn't able to help Zhao Feng break through to the 5th level of the sacred lightning body, it would at least be able to reach the limit of the 4th level. Unfortunately, ever since leaving the underground city, Zhao Feng hadn't found enough top-tier body-strengthening resources. On the way, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongxing didn't purposely travel. As they got closer to the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's location, the Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi became purer, and the chances of encountering beasts increased dramatically. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongxing purposely used some powerful beasts to refine their soul and cultivation. In the divine illusion dimension, there were a few beasts with powerful bloodlines that were comparable to peak-tier kings. If Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng teamed up, they could easily finish off a peak-tier king. They even had a chance of winning in a one-on-one battle. Half a month later, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng stopped and walked until they arrived at a vast plain. There were many beasts on this plain, and almost every beast king was at the king level. The aura of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon is becoming stronger. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng looked at each other. From all the signs, it seemed that the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon was indeed taking them to the core of the divine illusion dimension. On the way, the two felt a powerful aura of destruction, including the beasts that had been destroyed. Large-scale beasts could only be slaughtered in front of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. Even kings were like ants in front of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. It could be said that the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon was the strongest being that Zhao Feng had ever met in his life. Even the hypothetical demigod Kun Yun at his peak couldn't be compared to him. At a certain moment, a large scorched crater appeared on the plain in front of them. It was dozens of miles wide, and there were even craters that were several hundred yards wide. Fuck off. Our Grand Duke Qi's palace was the first to find the remains of the Wolf Emperor. Anyone who tries to stop us will die. Enraged battle sounded from within the scorched crater. Whoosh! The flaming chariot that Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng were on quickly approached the crater. They couldn't help but take in a cold breath when they saw the situation within the crater from afar. They saw. The scorched crater was dozens of miles wide, and there were the corpses of beasts within 100 miles nearby. Many of the corpses had been turned to dust, leaving behind a scorch mark on the ground. Faintly, Zhao Feng could see the corpses of some king-level beasts. There were around 10 of them. The most eye-catching thing was the corpse of the Emperor-level Wolf Emperor in the depths of the crater. Although it was scorched black, it was still relatively intact. Apart from that, the corpse of the Wolf Emperor contained a wisp of the destruction aura of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon, even though it wasn't the Destruction Dragon flames. Unfortunately, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng had arrived a bit late, and most of the cake near the crater had already been taken. There were 3 forces that were competing for it. The other 2 star forces that didn't have a king could only pick up the spoils from afar. These 3 forces were Grand Duke Qi's palace, the Jiang family, and another 3-star force. These forces were all 3-star forces. In the Great Gan Lord dynasty, organizations that had the title of Grand Duke's Palace were usually the strongest in a province. A province in the Great Gan Lord dynasty was comparable to the Tsang Ocean. From this, one could see how high the status of each duke or duke was. They were all guarded by Mystic Light Realm's sacred lords, and their status was only below the Sacred Emperor and Sacred Empress. Not good. The purple-haired demonic duo is here. Someone near the scorched pit exclaimed in a low voice. Soon after, most of the forces near the crater became wary or were affected by the atmosphere. It really is the purple-haired demonic duo, everyone, watch out. Jiang Chen from the Jiang family had a grim expression. At this moment in time, the gazes of the geniuses looked toward the flaming chariot in the air. On the flaming chariot, 2 purple-haired males were mysterious and wicked as they inspected the area below. Purple-haired demonic duo. I heard that the Imperials, Grand Duke Yuan's palace, and other forces all lost to them. A handsome youth in black armor from Grand Duke Qi's palace squinted his eyes. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng slowed down in the air. Zhao Feng, should we attack? Nan Gongsheng had an instinctive desire to steal. On the way here, the two teamed up and robbed everywhere. They were almost addicted to it. After all, the 2 of them were alone, and they could obtain treasures quickly by robbing others. These forces are facing a great foe. Zhao Feng shook his head. Unknowingly, the name of the purple-haired demonic duo had spread far and wide. This couldn't continue. Zhao Feng felt that something wasn't right. The geniuses that entered the divine illusion dimension were all elites of the major forces, and some were even prodigies of the continent. Everyone, let's continue. Let's go down and scout. Zhao Feng thought about it and decided to change his strategy. This was because the accumulation of capital was already enough for the two of them. It was not worth it to offend more forces and incite public anger for some small profits. Whoosh! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng slowly descended with calm expressions. The geniuses and forces of the Jiang family were surprised. Whenever the purple-haired demonic duo appeared, they would just rob others. Why did they change their personality now? Be careful. This might be a scheme of the purple-haired demonic duo. The number one beauty of the Jiang family, Jiang Feishue, gritted her teeth. She hated the purple-haired demonic duo. She secretly suggested that the number one genius of the Jiang family, Jiang Chen, should team up with the forces present to attack the purple-haired demonic duo. Jiang Chen shook his head and sighed. The aura of the purple-haired demonic duo is even stronger. I heard that they even managed to escape unscathed from the 8th-ranked Blue Serpent King. Perhaps there was a chance to kill the purple-haired demonic duo if they teamed up with the forces present, but they would pay a heavy price. Furthermore, some of the forces and experts didn't have any conflict with the purple-haired demonic duo, so they wouldn't attack for no reason. Bam! Zhao Feng's powerful body sank into the pit below, and he felt the aura of a destruction dragon flame. Even with his sacred lightning body, he still felt a slight pain. That wolf emperor was killed without being able to fight back at all in front of the black destruction serpent dragon. Zhao Feng came to a conclusion after some observation. This conclusion made their expressions become solemn. Without a doubt, the black destruction serpent dragon was an unrivaled existence in the divine illusion dimension. At the very least, this was the case for the geniuses outside. Even Mystic Light Realm sacred lords only had a chance of threatening the black destruction serpent dragon. Furthermore, the black destruction serpent dragon was extremely weak and restrained by the Yuan sealing divine chains. Time slowly passed by. The experts of the other forces and the other forces all left. Only Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng were left in the pit. Zhao Feng sat in the center of the pit where the black destruction serpent dragon's flames had struck. The remaining wisps of dragon flame aura seemed to have a nurturing effect on his sacred lightning body. Chapter 829. Unfortunately, I was a bit too late. Zhao Feng sat in the crater with regret. The wisps of dragon flaming aura were slowly fading away. However, even then, the remaining wisps of dragon flaming aura were still nourishing Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body. If this effect was several times stronger and lasted for a day or two, maybe Zhao Feng's golden Kuan's sacred lightning body would be able to break through to the 5th level. However, this kind of opportunity was hard to come by. The black destruction serpent dragon only used its dragon breath to kill the emperor-level wolf emperor when it met the beast horde led by the wolf emperor. This was the first time Zhao Feng had seen this dragon flaming aura. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng stayed in the crater for a day or two. Nan Gongsheng found that the dragon flaming aura was able to get rid of the wicked power that was affected by the evil god crystal. Over the next 2 days, Zhao Feng multitasked. He went in 3 different directions at the same time. The first direction, a portion of the plant elemental power of the sky water crystal lotus within his body was still being absorbed. With the help of the crystal core, Zhao Feng's cultivation was steadily increasing, and the quality of his true yuan was approaching the level of a king. Once the quality of his true yuan was comparable to a king's, Zhao Feng's soul intent and other aspects would surpass normal kings apart from the number of crystal cores he had. The second direction, Zhao Feng used the dragon flaming aura and the ancient dream realm spiritual fruit to stabilize his sacred lightning body. The third direction, Zhao Feng refined and absorbed the wicked soul power within the soul suppressing stone. The first 2 directions weren't much, but the third one was more troublesome. Luckily, Zhao Feng's mastery of the 10,000 divine thoughts technique was still there, and it had even improved after taking over another body. The third day, the dragon flaming aura within the crater was almost undetectable. Let's go and continue chasing. Zhao Feng was sure that his golden Kuan's sacred lightning body had reached a limit and needed a strong force to break through. He had a feeling that the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon might be the key for his sacred lightning body to break through. Of course, trying to use the Black Serpent Dragon's breath to refine his body was tantamount to courting death. Even Zhao Feng at his peak in his previous life might not have had the ability to resist the Black Serpent Dragon's dragon flame. Swoosh! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng sat on an ancient flaming chariot and continued to chase after the Black Serpent Dragon. In order to unleash the flaming chariot's maximum speed, Zhao Feng used a piece of substandard divine crystal as its core. In the blink of an eye, the flaming chariot's speed reached its limit, comparable to a peak king. One day later, a huge basin appeared in the plains ahead. The aura of destruction is getting stronger and stronger. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon seems to have reached its destination, Zhao Feng murmured. In fact, there were many powerful demonic beasts along the way, so it should have been a dangerous journey. However, with the Black Flood Dragon leading the way, it could kill anything in its way. Its destructive draconic aura dispersed all living things. It was much easier for the pursuers behind to follow the aura. Zhao Feng, there seems to be a lot of geniuses heading in that direction. Nan Gongsheng felt that something was wrong. As they got closer to their destination, the chances of them meeting experts and groups increased. Ancient God's Mysterious Palace. Zhao Feng circulated a Soul Dao secret technique and obtained the news from a lone half-step king. Ancient God's Mysterious Palace. Ancient God. Nan Gongsheng's heart shook. The two of them didn't know much about the outside world, so they only found out about this important news now. If it weren't for the fact that Zhao Feng had a sharp instinct to chase after the Black Serpent Dragon, they would have missed this great fortune. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng were either plundering or cultivating in seclusion, so they were indeed a bit out of the loop. They weren't like other forces that would interact with each other in the divine illusion dimension. Apart from that, there were also geniuses and elites that had the same thoughts as Zhao Feng and wanted to take advantage of the Black Serpent Dragon or dig out the core secrets of the divine illusion dimension. Quick! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng realized that they were lagging behind in the ancient god's mysterious palace. Whoosh! Whoosh! The flaming chariot they were on gave off a bright green flaming light, and its speed surpassed normal peak-tier kings and was close to that of an emperor. A while later, the two of them entered a large basin. Looking down from the sky, the center of the basin was sunken in, and the center seemed to extend endlessly, as if it was going to swallow the entire world. In a corner of the basin, the aura of destruction is becoming stronger and stronger. It's making people's hearts tremble. Senior Marshal Brother Jiu, should we continue forward? The upper echelon of Nine Darkness Palace, led by Jiu Wuji, looked into the depths of the basin. In the Great Gon Lord Dynasty, Nine Darkness Palace was ranked in the top 3 of the 3-star forces, and they were a peak 3-star force. Only a portion of the elites can enter, and it's voluntary. Jiu Wuji's voice was deep. One could imagine that exploring the depths of the basin would be extremely dangerous. Those that weren't strong enough would just be sending themselves to their deaths. If they met the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon, any group would be wiped out. I'm willing. I'm willing. Voices sounded from the group of Nine Darkness Palace. Not long after, Jiu Wuji picked out 10 elites, and half of them were half-step kings. Some of these elites were new prodigies, while others were older elites. The strength of these people was comparable to at least half-step kings. During this time, some of the forces that had chased after them also had similar measures. The forces of the Duanmu family were gathered in front of a hill. The ones at the front were Zhao Yufei and the elder in green robes. The ancient mysterious palace ahead is extremely dangerous, and there's the threat of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. The Duanmu family will only choose 10 elites. The elder in green robes said. The temptation of the ancient mysterious palace made many people dare to take the risk and participate. In the end, the 10 spots were more or less confirmed. Yufei, you have the bloodline of the spiritual race. Even without the fortune of the ancient mysterious palace, you're destined to soar through the 9 heavens in the future. The elder in green robes said in a solemn tone. From his point of view, the bloodline of the spiritual race was extremely compatible with heaven and earth. There was no need to take too many risks. On the other hand, if the other geniuses or elites didn't try their best to fight for fortune, they wouldn't have any hope of breaking through to higher realms, and they might not even be able to become a king. I also want to fight for the fortune of the ancient mysterious palace. If I don't even have this bit of courage, how can I revive the Duanmu family and catch up to him? Decisiveness flashed through Zhao Yufei's eyes. Him. The elder in green robes was speechless. This was the will of an expert. The reason why experts were called experts wasn't just because they were physically strong, but also because they had a strong heart. At the same time, strong power could nurture one's soul. However, the elder in green was very interested in the him that Zhao Yufei wanted to catch up to. In the depths of the basin, there was a large, scorched, dragon-shaped hole. There were several small groups gathered here, and their strength was definitely not at the peak. This should be the entrance to the ancient mysterious palace. The black destruction serpent dragon entered from here. The 8th prince said. So, the ancient mysterious palace is at the bottom of the basin. The 13th prince, who was wearing purple and gold battle robes, smiled lightly. The group in front of them belonged to the Great Gan Imperials. The 8th prince, the 9th prince, the 13th prince, Luo Zun, the wrinkled elder, they were all kings and half-step kings. There were more than 20 people in the Imperials group, and the weakest amongst them was a half-step king. Don't let your guard down against the forces of Sky Suspension Palace. The 9th prince said in a solemn tone. Amongst them, the 9th prince was the most talented. After escaping from the Blue Serpent King Wei Jing's pursuit, he had recovered from his injuries and Yuan Qi. Sky Suspension Palace. The Imperials' expressions changed slightly as they looked at the forces on the other side. There were more than 20 people on the other side of the dragon-shaped hole, and the weakest amongst them was a half-step king. There were 3 Void God Realm kings leading them. There was a handsome youth in the middle who looked gentle, but his cultivation had reached the peak-tier king realm. Next to him was a male and female, both domain-level kings. Sky Suspension Palace indeed sent out Xianyuan Wen, who is ranked 7th on the Imperial Genius rankings. He's only 20 or so years old, but he's already a peak-tier king. His talent is unparalleled. The Imperials couldn't help but sigh. Everyone's gazes landed on the elegant youth from Sky Suspension Palace. Sky Suspension Palace was one of the few 4-star forces in the Lord Dynasty, and it had a long history. Xianyuan Wen, ranked 7th on the Great Gan Imperial Genius rankings. He should be the strongest genius that entered the Divine Illusion dimension. The 9th prince's eyes twinkled, and a powerful surge of battle intent shot out of them. At this moment in time, the Sky Suspension Palace and the Imperials were inspecting the area around the dragon-shaped hole, and they even sent people with special abilities into the underground cave to conduct a preliminary investigation. I heard that the Blue Serpent King Wei Jing, ranked 9th on the Imperial Genius rankings, appeared nearby. Why haven't we seen him yet? The youth in white behind Xianyuan Wen started to think. Wei Jing came from the Dark Capital Cult, a 4-star superpower in the Dark Moon Lord Dynasty, and he was Xianyuan Wen's enemy. Although one of them was ranked 7th and the other was ranked 9th, it was hard to say if they would actually fight to the death. Because, the Great Gan Imperial Genius rankings were determined by the Great Gan Lord Dynasty. Isn't Senior Marshal Brother Zhuge's worry a little unnecessary? Due to the fact that the Divine Illusion dimension was connected, only a small number of king geniuses from the Dark Moon Lord Dynasty appeared here. Although that Wei Jing is strong, he doesn't dare to fight against us humans. The apricot-robed female next to him gave a faint smile. Hearing that, the people from Sky Suspension Palace all agreed. The Divine Illusion Dimension was connected to the Divine Illusion Dimension. If one looked closely, they would find that the geniuses that appeared here were mostly from the Great Gon Lord dynasty, such as the Imperials and the 8 big families. Although the Void God Realm Kings would appear randomly, they wouldn't jump too far away. Outside the basin, the elites of some forces were slowly advancing. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon didn't do anything after entering the center of the basin. In a hidden cave outside the basin, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng sat down cross-legged, and their auras started to rise and condense. I'm just a little bit away from breaking through to the late stages of the Void God Realm. The purple and blood-colored crescent moon on Nan Gongsheng's forehead flashed with a wicked light. Right at this moment, Weng boom. An intent that could shake heaven and earth suddenly broke through the barrier, and it seemed to contain an immortal and undying aura that countered everything in the world. Nan Gongsheng's soul shook, and his blood started to boil. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This aura came from right next to him. Chapter 830. In a hidden cave on the outskirts of the basin, a thunderous will of the Emperor shook the world, soared into the clouds, and stood proudly in the 9 heavens. In that instant, the souls of the countless beings within 1,000 miles seemed to be struck by lightning, and they trembled in front of this powerful intent. Boom! In the sky above the cave, a layer of majestic lightning clouds and winds suddenly condensed, and with this as the center, it formed an enormous multicolored vortex that threw the heavens and the earth into disorder. At this moment in time, the heaven-earth Yuan Qi was like a tsunami as it surged into the center of the whirlpool. Within a dark cave, Zhao Feng sat down cross-legged, and a magnificent power surrounded him. A pair of wings of wind and lightning extended from his back, making him seem like an emperor. When in just a few breaths, the crystal core in Zhao Feng's hand started to dim. The energy stored in the heavenly water crystal lotus in his body was instantly compressed and condensed. Middle stages of the Great Origin Core Realm. The size of the crystal core in Zhao Feng's body started to expand. In just a dozen or so breaths, Zhao Feng's cultivation had forcefully broken through by a small rank. Emperor intent. Not far away, Nan Gongsheng's soul started to throb, and he felt like he was suffocating. The magnificent power intent radiating from Zhao Feng's body seemed to be able to cover everything. It's been a long time. Zhao Feng closed his eyes, and his emperor intent aura was quickly withdrawn. It was like a tornado that left as quickly as it came. If it was a newly formed emperor intent, it definitely wouldn't be able to control and conceal its aura so easily. In the next instant, from the looks of it, Zhao Feng was no different from a normal Great Origin Core realm, but if one inspected him closely, he would give off a mysterious feeling. In the depths of the basin, in front of the dragon-shaped cave, more than 20 geniuses and elites of the Sky Suspension Palace were waiting to be explored. Emperor intent. Surprise appeared on Xianyuan Wen's handsome face as he looked in a certain direction. In the distance, a trace of emperor's will suddenly appeared. He could clearly sense it through the ripples of heaven and earth. As for the other Void God Realm Kings, only a few of them felt that something was off, but they couldn't explain it. Perhaps it's an emperor-level beast native to the Divine Illusion Dimension. However, even if an ordinary Great Emperor were to come personally, he wouldn't be able to do anything to us. The apricot-robed woman said with a smile. After Xianyuan Wen mentioned it, she and Senior Marshal Brother Zhuge, who was beside her, carefully sensed the aura. It doesn't feel like a demon spirit or an outsider. I feel like it's the will of a human emperor. Xianyuan Wen shook his head slightly. Hearing this, the expressions of the elites of Sky Suspension Palace changed dramatically. If it was a human, then it was very likely that it was an outsider who had entered the Divine Illusion Dimension. In the boundless universe, there are many capable people of different levels. Not necessarily. Only 3 or 4-star super factions can produce unparalleled geniuses. Senior Marshal Brother Zhuge sighed. No one doubted Xianyuan Wen's conclusion because he was already half a step into the realm of an emperor. However, Xianyuan Wen and the other two didn't seem too worried about it. In an inconspicuous corner near the center of the basin. Emperor intent? Could it be Xianyuan Wen from Sky Suspension Palace? A voice sounded in front of two large stones. It doesn't seem like Xianyuan Wen. I've seen him fight before, and their auras are completely different. A deep voice sounded in front of the other large stone. There was no one here, but the voices of two people talking sounded. If other people were here, they would be suspicious. Schwa. The two large stones in front of them suddenly turned into two non-human figures. One of them was a male of a non-human race. He was tall, and his body was covered in blue scales. He had a blue horn on his head, similar to the characteristics of the serpent dragon race. If Zhao Feng or the ninth prince were here, they would be able to recognize him. He was the blue serpent king, Wei Jing. The other figure was even weirder. It was a non-human male with beady eyes. The color of his aura merged with his surroundings and became blurry. However, one could still see a pair of earthy yellow crystal horns on his head. If you and I work together, we don't even need to be scared of a true emperor. However, the human forces of the Great Gon Lord dynasty are too strong in this area. We can only take the ancient mysterious palace with our wits. Wei Jing said. His gaze moved away from the emperor intent aura, and his expression became solemn. Schwa. The light in front of him flashed and the aura of the two of them disappeared without a trace. In the cave outside the basin, Zhao Feng, your emperor intent has recovered. Who can stop us in the divine illusion dimension? Nan Gongsheng was slightly excited. The scene of the emperor intent shooting into the sky just now made him think about the left-eyed heavenly emperor. My emperor intent has only recovered to the level of a weak primary tier emperor. Although I don't dare to say that I'm invincible, I'm not scared of any outsider in the divine illusion dimension. Zhao Feng had a calm expression. The sudden increase in strength didn't increase his confidence. He didn't dare to say that he was invincible in the divine illusion dimension, but he wasn't scared of anyone. At this moment, the yin aura of the soul-suppressing stone in front of Zhao Feng had dimmed by more than half, and cracks had appeared on the surface of the soul stone. Overall, the speed at which Zhao Feng refined the soul-suppressing stone was extremely fast. This was due to his mastery of the Tao of the soul and the power of the God Tribulation Lightning. Within the dimension of his left eye, Zhao Feng's purple soul sea also started to expand to 400 to 500 yards. The surface of the purple soul sea started to glitter, as if it had been polished thousands of times. Zhao Feng's mental energy aura naturally merged into heaven and earth, and the laws of heaven and earth, including the laws of space itself, were reflected in his senses. Zhao Feng suddenly sensed something, and a weird expression appeared on his face. Let's retreat first. The duo was covered by a layer of silver and purple light and soon left the hidden cave. A while later, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng appeared in the clouds and sat on an ancient flaming chariot. Not long after, more than a dozen sharp auras appeared behind the cave where they were in seclusion. Whoosh! 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 These 10 figures had a bone-chilling aura around them, and the weakest among them was at the half-step void god realm. The person leading them was an old man with white hair and a white beard. He was wearing a simple white robe. The old man's white beard was 3 feet long, and his face was covered in wrinkles, as if he was about to enter a grave at any moment. But his eyes were bright and spirited, with a kind of sharpness that could pierce through all things. Emperor intent has appeared here before. A surge of sword intent shot out from the old man's eyes. At this instant, the color of the clouds changed dramatically. Weng, at that instant, the countless swords near the basin started to tremble. The power of this sword intent wasn't any weaker than an emperor's. Senior Guyu is indeed worthy of the title, Little Sword Saint. His mastery of the sword Tao has surpassed some emperors. The eyes of the geniuses of the Sword Dao sect were filled with respect. However, there was also a hint of pity in everyone's eyes towards this senior Guyu. Such powerful sword intent. What kind of background does this sect have? Are all of its geniuses and elites existences that have comprehended powerful sword intents? Amidst the clouds, Zhao Feng's eyes flashed. Furthermore, apart from the white-bearded old man, there was also a cold black-robed young girl. Every single elite genius talent in the Sword Dao was stronger than Song Yue's. It's someone from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. The number one Sword Dao sect in the Great Qian dynasty, the once glorious 4-star sword sect, has now fallen to the peak of 3-star. There were 2 forces near the cave that recognized the people of Sky Sword Pavilion. The 10-man team of the Sky Sword Pavilion was extremely powerful, far surpassing the average 3-star sect. The will of the martial monarch is extraordinary. It's as if it had just woken up, but it swiftly retracted itself. The white-bearded old man's eyes were like torches as he scanned the surroundings. He also noticed Xiao Feng and Nan Gongseng in the distant sky. However, one of them was a domain-level king while the other was only at the Great Origin Core realm. In the end, the white-bearded old man returned in disappointment. If the Sky Sword Pavilion was able to form an alliance with an expert with Emperor intent, it would be a powerful alliance. Unfortunately, the owner of the Emperor intent was very secretive. Continue deeper. The white-bearded old man exclaimed, and 10 powerful auras of the Sword Dao flew toward the depths of the crater. Sky Sword Pavilion. The expressions of some forces changed dramatically on the way. It's him. Senior Little Sword Saint Guyu. The elder in green robes from the Duanmu family couldn't help but take in a cold breath. That old undead actually entered the divine illusion dimension. Does he want to fight one last time before he dies? Jiu Wuji from Nine Darkness Palace had a wary expression. Some of the older generation elites knew a lot about the Little Sword Saint. In front of the dragon-shaped cave, so, it's the former Little Sword Saint of Sky Sword Pavilion. Those from the Imperials and Sky Suspension Palace looked over. Even senior martial brother Zhuge from Sky Suspension Palace couldn't help but reveal admiration and respect. Soon, the Sky Sword Pavilion became the 3rd elite group to arrive at the dragon-shaped cave. A while later, the elite groups from Nine Darkness Palace and the other 3-star forces arrived. Most of the people that entered were elite groups. However, there were also rare solo cultivators or groups of 1 or 2 people. Whoosh! At a certain moment, a flaming chariot arrived in front of the dragon-shaped cave at a shocking speed. Purple-haired demonic duo. Those 2 bastards. Many of the elites from the Great Gon Lord dynasty gritted their teeth with hatred on their faces. The 2 people on the flaming chariot attracted the attention of many elite groups. However, those 2 acted as if there was no one else present. They didn't show any fear or retreat as they faced the elite groups of the super forces. Instead, they even had an unfathomable smile on their faces. Many geniuses and experts had suffered at the hands of the purple-haired demonic duo before. Even though they had the numbers advantage, they didn't dare to attack. It's been more than a month since we entered the divine illusion dimension. That's more than 1/3 of the total time. Zhao Feng crossed his arms in front of his chest as his eyes twinkled as he scanned around. Among them, his gaze lingered on Xianyuan Wen's face for a moment. A trace of surprise flashed through his eyes before he quickly looked away. No one knew. This handsome youth at the Origin Core realm was the owner of the Emperor intent that had appeared not long ago. At this point in time, Zhao Feng's aura was concealed very well. He couldn't easily reveal his Emperor intent and true strength. Although Zhao Feng wasn't afraid of anyone present, he couldn't stand on the edge of the waves and attract the attention of all the forces. Chapter 831. The various superpowers elite parties arrived before the scorched dragon-shaped hole one after another. A duo like Xiao Feng and Nan Gongseng was rather rare. It's these 2 thieves. You even dare to rob us, the great Qian imperial family. Where is the dignity of the imperial family? The 13th prince, who was wearing purple and gold battle robes, said hatefully. At this moment, the great Gan Imperials gathered here and they were unprecedentedly strong. The 8th prince, 9th prince, and 13th prince were all present. There were domain-level kings like Luo Xun and the wrinkled elder. 8th imperial brother, 9th imperial brother, we can't let these two scoundrels encroach on the benefits of the ancient mysterious manor. Why don't we join forces and kill him before exploring the ancient mysterious mansion? The 13th prince instigated from the side with a dark expression. The 13th prince's group had been robbed by the purple-haired demonic duo back in the ruined ancient city. This enraged the 13th prince. Unfortunately, the purple-haired demonic duo managed to break out of the encirclement several times. From the looks of it, the purple-haired demonic duo seemed to be doing very well, and their evil reputation had spread far and wide. The 8th prince and the 9th prince looked at each other and hesitated when they heard the 13th prince's furious suggestion. That's him, the 9th prince's eyes focused as he stared at the purple-haired youth of the purple-haired demonic duo. Back then, when he was hunted by the Blue Serpent King Wei Jing, the young man had used the Blue Serpent King's talent domain to refine his body and escaped unscathed. If not for the guidance of this young man, he might not have survived until now. The 9th prince had complicated feelings about Zhao Feng. Yet it just so happened that this youth seemed to be shrouded in layers of mist, and he was strange and unpredictable. Even now, he was still unable to see through him. The 8th prince and Luo Xun were filled with wariness. Zhao Feng's appearance made the two feel difficult to deal with, as well as an inexplicable sense of disgust and helplessness. A few days ago, in the underground tomb, the 8th prince, Luo Xun, and the purple-haired demonic duo had worked together, but they didn't get anything out of it. Instead, they were almost tricked. Cough. 9th royal brother, we need to think about how to deal with the purple-haired demonic duo. Now is not the best time. The 8th prince lightly coughed. Even though the Imperials were extremely powerful, they still had powerful enemies like Sky Suspension Palace and Sky Sword Pavilion. That's right. The most important thing right now is to work together to get the ancient mysterious mansion. The 9th prince agreed. The 8th prince and the 9th prince quickly came to an agreement. They seemed to be wary of the purple-haired demonic duo. If the imperial family was like that, the other forces, such as the Jiang family, Duke Yuan's residence, and the Ji family, would have to be even more cautious and cautious. The 13th prince felt that something was wrong. Dealing with the purple-haired demonic duo was to protect the dignity of the royal family. Why were the two royal brothers not very proactive? Instead, they seemed to be avoiding each other. 13th prince, don't panic. We need the right time to deal with them. It was not hard for the wrinkled old man to guess the reason after observing Xiao Chen's expression and analyzing the news. Obviously, the purple-haired demonic duo were notorious for being difficult to deal with. It could be said that it was a hard bone to chew. It was already a blessing that the demonic duo didn't take the initiative to rob others, let alone him. Xian Wuheng. Some low exclamations came from the dragon-shaped cave. A green-robed man flew through the air and slowly landed on the ground. Brother Xian, are you willing to team up with us? The 6-star tower is willing to give you 40% of the profits. Xian Wuheng. You come from the Imperials. Come and join us. The eyes of the leaders of the forces lit up, and they all sent out invitations. A group from a 3-star power was even willing to give up 60% of the profits. Xian Wuheng's popularity far exceeded expectations. On the other hand, the purple-haired demonic duo made people want to avoid them and be wary. Xian Wuheng and the purple-haired demonic duo's style of doing things were completely opposite. Thank you for your kind intentions, but I haven't decided which force to join yet. Xian Wuheng remained calm and rejected all the forces. The leaders of some forces had regretful expressions, but they didn't force him. This brat has the demeanor of a grandmaster. His future is immeasurable. The white-bearded little sword saint from Sky Sword Pavilion inspected Xian Wuheng with admiration. However, even if it was the Heaven Sword Pavilion's invitation, Xian Wuheng still rejected it without any hesitation. Brother Zhao. After Xian Wuheng stood still, he greeted the purple-haired demonic duo with a complicated expression on his face. More accurately speaking, the person he greeted was the purple-haired youth. After all, they came from the same hometown and were once rivals. The forces present all looked over. Who was this purple-haired youth? Even Xian Wuheng knew him and even greeted him. Furthermore, Xian Wuheng had a complicated and cautious expression on his face. Could it be that Zhao Feng of the purple-haired demonic duo is someone of the same level as Xian Wuheng? The elites of the Jiang family, the Ji family, the Chao family, and the other forces guessed. He's indeed more mysterious and powerful than expected. Ji Lan, who had suffered the backlash from the god's spiritual eye, had fear on her face. No matter what. The mysteriousness of the purple-haired demonic duo entered everyone's hearts. Even the 13th prince couldn't help but think, looks like the purple-haired demonic duo is stronger than expected. No wonder my two royal brothers aren't very active. Whoosh! 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 Right at this moment, another group of elites arrived near the dragon-shaped cave. At the front of the group was a gorgeous, refined, and peerless woman in a violet dress, and she instantly drew the gazes of everyone. It's the Duanmu family. Zhao Yufei. A disciple of the Duanmu family with another surname. The grand elder of the family took her in as the adopted daughter. Apparently, she has the bloodline of the spiritual race. Some of the people present were discussing among themselves. This was the first time most people had seen this female. Zhao Yufei, the bloodline of the spiritual race. Master said that she'll be a strong opponent in the future. Her powerful bloodline is destined to soar through the 9 heavens. Xianyuan Wen inspected someone seriously for the first time. The woman in his field of vision was peerlessly beautiful and pure. Her snow-white skin was suffused with a faint luster of jade, and she was like a lifelike, noble, and extraordinary ice jade fairy. Even Xianyuan Wen, who was used to seeing all kinds of beauties in 4-star sects, was stunned. Sister Yufei. The 13th prince's eyes lit up. He revealed a joyful expression and was the first to greet her. Some of the forces present knew about the rumors between Zhao Yufei and the 13th prince. In the future, it was very likely that these two would become a couple. This wasn't just the sacred emperor's intention. There was also an invisible force pushing them together. Even though the third prince tried his best to control himself, he couldn't hide the shock and admiration in his eyes as he looked at the goddess of his dreams that came closer and closer. In the depths of his heart, he had already treated this beautiful and perfect female as his fiancée. However, an unimaginable scene appeared. The elegant and beautiful female in purple didn't seem to see the 13th prince at all. Her clear eyes were locked onto someone. What's going on? The elites and geniuses of the Duanmu family, the Imperials, and other forces felt that something was wrong. Zhao Yufei was staring at the purple-haired demonic duo. It's the purple-haired demonic duo again. Could it be that the purple-haired demonic duo offended Zhao Yufei as well? Many of the experts present were tongue-tied. Yufei, don't worry. I will definitely help you punish these two scoundrels. The 13th prince had a confident and bright smile. In order to win the heart of the goddess of his dreams, he would kill the purple-haired demonic duo no matter what price he had to pay. If he really wanted to take action, the 8th prince and the 9th prince wouldn't just stand by and watch. Immediately, the 13th prince gathered his forces and prepared to surround the purple-haired demonic duo. Stop! This shout interrupted the 13th prince's intentions, and it contained the might of a powerful spiritual race bloodline. In a split second, the origin chi in this part of the world swept up like a raging storm. The bloodlines and true yuan of the experts present started to tremble. Sister Yufei, you. The 13th prince was slightly dazed. He didn't understand why the goddess he was trying so hard to please would suddenly become angry. At this moment in time, a layer of mist appeared in Zhao Yufei's eyes as she stared at the purple-haired youth of the purple-haired demonic duo and flew away like a wisp of purple smoke. Yufei. The green-robed elder and company from the Duanmu family didn't know what to do. This was the first time they had seen such strong emotions on the face of this prodigy. Brother Feng, is that you? Tears welled up in Zhao Yufei's eyes. There was nothing else in her mind except for that strange purple-haired youth. That familiar purple hair and familiar eyes made her even more certain. What's going on? The 8th prince, the 9th prince, Luo Zun, and company from the Imperials were dazed. The emotions on Zhao Yufei's face obviously meant something. She probably had a very close relationship with this Xiao Feng. Both of their surnames are Zhao. Could it be? The 8th prince and Luo Zun looked at each other. A guess appeared in everyone's mind. Everyone was guessing the relationship between these two, and they were basically certain that they were brother and sister. Yufei, it's me. Zhao Feng's voice was slightly deep. He felt complicated when he saw this girl who was his childhood sweetheart again, and he didn't know how to face her. When he was young, he was emotionless. At first, he had a good impression of Zhao Yufei, and then he took care of her like a brother and sister. However, the tide of emotions washed away his naivety. As time passed, it was like a bottle of aged wine that gave off a mellow fragrance that made people unable to resist it. There was no unforgettable promise or promise. There was only the corrosion of time. Brother Feng, why don't you tell me who you are? A purple smoke-like figure jumped into Zhao Feng's arms. Maybe Zhao Yufei recognized Zhao Feng in terms of soul intent and forgot that this body wasn't the original Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng's hand felt a bit wet, but he didn't know what to say as he hugged the beauty in his arms. Yufei. The 13th prince's heart shook, and half of it went cold. He felt that Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei didn't seem like siblings. The great Gan Imperials, the geniuses of the super families, and the super sects were all stunned. Those from the Duanmu family were also stunned. This prodigy with an unparalleled noble bloodline had jumped into the arms of one of the infamous purple-haired demonic duo. Chapter 832. This scene made the eyes of the geniuses and elites of the Great Gan Lord dynasty drop, and they seemed to choke. The perfect and noble goddess in the hearts of the young geniuses had jumped into the arms of this wicked and mysterious youth with tears in her eyes. How is this possible? This bastard. Jiang Chen from the Jiang family and the other geniuses that had a feud with Zhao Feng were speechless. The expressions of the 8th prince and Luo Zun from the Imperials were very colorful, and they felt extremely frustrated. A sense of defeat rose in the hearts of the two once again. The 8th prince had once liked Luo Zun's sister, Luo Shuei, but she was engaged to Zhao Feng, and they were friends. For Luo Zun, Zhao Yufei was a rare girl that he liked, but her identity and bloodline were too noble, and he wasn't good enough for her. The most speechless person was the 13th prince. So that's how it is. Yufei chased after the purple-haired demonic duo to find that brat. The 13th prince's expression was extremely ugly and dark. His eyes flickered with a vicious murderous intent. Your Highness, please calm down. The wrinkled elder had appeared behind the 13th prince out of nowhere and gently patted him on the shoulder. The 13th prince took a deep breath and calmed down his chaotic and crazy heart. This Xiao Feng is definitely not a simple person. Even now, this old man still can't see through him. The best way to deal with him is to leave the divine illusion dimension or find a suitable opportunity in the ancient mysterious palace. The wrinkled elder messaged. If Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei were in love with each other, then the 13th prince wouldn't be able to do anything. The 8 great aristocratic families were very close to the imperial family, and they were inextricably linked. Zhao Yufei, who had the bloodline of the spiritual race, couldn't be forced either. With her talent, even 3-star and 4-star forces would fight to take her as a disciple. For example, the 4-star Sky Suspension Palace didn't need to care about the Imperials. "Brother Feng, why don't you tell me who you are?" Zhao Yufei's voice sounded. At this moment, the tears in her eyes evaporated. She was calm and unruffled as she sized up this brand new, incomparably handsome, brother Zhao Feng. At first, she thought that Zhao Feng had changed his appearance, but after careful observation, she confirmed that was not the case. Faced with Zhao Yufei's question again, Zhao Feng could not ignore it. There were many reasons why he hadn't taken the initiative to acknowledge Zhao Yufei before this, and they were also slightly complicated. Firstly, Zhao Feng's cultivation, strength, and appearance were all completely new. From a material perspective, the Zhao Feng of the past no longer existed. Second, his fiancée Lu Qinxin's new life. The scene in the Fan Luan Ancient Sound Palace was still fresh in his mind. Lu Qinxin had envisioned Zhao Feng's arrival and had even left behind an ancient bronze coin to help Zhao Feng nurture the great monarch will in advance. "Feng, since you're here, Qinxin can die without regrets. It's the fortune of my life. Feng, my death is for me to break through the shackles of fate. Since you found this place, it means that our karma hasn't ended yet." Zhao Feng instinctively felt that the new Lu Qinxin might be waiting for him in a corner. "Zhao Feng, if fate still exists, you will eventually see Qinxin again. However, if you really want to know where she is, you'll need to find the eyes of Samsara." The sage's voice replayed in Zhao Feng's mind. Zhao Feng knew that the love in Zhao Yufei's heart couldn't tolerate a single grain of sand. If she knew that Lu Qinxin had obtained a new life and that her fiancé was still alive, who knew what she would think? The third reason, at that time, it wasn't suitable for Zhao Feng to reunite with Zhao Yufei. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng were bandits that robbed everywhere, so they had many enemies. Zhao Feng didn't want to drag Zhao Yufei and the Duanmu family into this. Including now. Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei still stood on different sides from the Duanmu family. With a thought, Zhao Feng told the first and third reasons to Zhao Yufei, especially the third reason. "Yufei, it's not suitable for me to join the Duanmu family right now," Zhao Feng said in a solemn tone. Zhao Yufei also understood the reason. After all, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng were bandits that had robbed many forces. Some of the forces that had been robbed were even allies of the Duanmu family. At the end, Zhao Feng asked about Duanmu Qing's situation. Senior Martial Brother Duanmu tried to break through to the Mystic Light Realm 2 years ago and failed. If he can't break through within 100 years, his lifespan will reach its limit, and his soul and life force will start to weaken. Zhao Yufei had a serious expression as she clenched her fists, as if she had made up her mind. Zhao Feng knew that normal emperors had 10,000 years of lifespan. Duanmu Qing was a wood elemental emperor, so his lifespan was slightly longer, but he was reaching his limit. In another 100 years, Duanmu Qing would be like the little sword saint of Sky Sword Pavilion, White Beard. In the end, he would be like the old priest in the underground city. A resource that can help one break through to the Mystic Light Realm is rare even in the Divine Illusion dimension. Zhao Feng sighed. Regarding this matter, he decided to do his part. Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei talked for a while before the latter left due to the call of the Duanmu family. "Yufei, are you okay?" The elder in green let out a breath. He was afraid that Zhao Yufei would be kidnapped by the purple-haired demonic duo. Luckily, Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei both understood their current situation. This was especially so for Zhao Feng. His plan of plundering meant that he would stand on the opposite side of most of the forces present. It wasn't just a problem of his plan. Any force or individual that wanted to get more benefits would cause the anger of the other forces, and they would work together to reject them. Senior Martial Brother Xianyuan. Right at this moment, a ghost-like figure jumped out of the dragon-shaped hole. His body was slightly charred, and he landed on the side of Sky Suspension Palace. What's the situation? The elites of Sky Suspension Palace revealed expectant expressions as they looked at the disciple responsible for scouting. Schwa. Senior Martial Brother Zhuge from Sky Suspension Palace gently waved his fan, and an invisible barrier of light blocked off this area. Not long after. Whoosh! A member of the princes jumped out of the dragon-shaped hole and reported the situation to the other 3 Imperials. Found it? The 8th prince and company revealed joyful expressions. We've confirmed that the entrance to the ancient mysterious palace is below, but the remaining aura of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon is extremely strong. The member of the princes explained some details. Of course. Both Sky Suspension Palace and the Imperials were isolated from the outside world. However, it wasn't hard for Zhao Feng to see that the search for the ancient mysterious palace had made a breakthrough through his expression. Whoosh! 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 The group of 20 or so elites from Sky Suspension Palace had already charged into the dragon-shaped hole. Quick! The Imperials' elites weren't slow either, and they were the second to enter the dragon-shaped hole. The third was Sky Sword Pavilion, and the fourth was Nine Darkness Palace. The nearby forces all rushed over. Of course. Due to the restrictions of the Divine Illusion Dimension, not all the peak forces of the Great Gon Lord Dynasty had gathered in this area. The Divine Illusion Dimension was extremely big, and there were many other fortuitous encounters. Maybe it was because of their strength or because they were wary of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon, but they gave up on this great fortune. Let's go. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng were covered by a layer of silver and purple light as they quickly entered the dragon-shaped hole. They weren't at the very front, but they weren't too far behind either. The dragon-shaped hole was extremely big. It was obvious that the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon had drilled into the ground and left behind a tunnel. Zhao Feng could feel the powerful aura left behind by the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon as they moved forward. Normal Origin Core realms wouldn't even be able to get close to this aura, let alone explore it. Whoosh! Under the effect of gravity, the geniuses and elites floated toward the depths of the dragon-shaped cave. The cave was slightly twisted, and they would occasionally step on the walls. There was still a powerful scorching aura left on the walls. A while later, Tseng. The figures landed at the bottom of the dragon-shaped cave. The bottom of the cave was scorched black, and there were even wisps of dragon aura left behind. Everyone present felt a burning sensation that they couldn't breathe. Look! Someone exclaimed in a low voice. A pool of lava had appeared in the pitch-black underground, and everything nearby was scorched black. There was a stone tablet next to the pool of lava. There were a few ancient words carved on the stone tablet, Xiayang Palace. Xiayang Palace. Ancient God Xiayang. The expressions of the forces present were filled with joy, but their eyebrows furrowed. However, everyone's eyebrows were slightly furrowed. If the words Xiayang Palace were written, then where was the entrance to the palace? This pool of lava is the entrance. Senior Martial Brother Zhuge, who was wearing white silk, held an ancient fan and walked into the pool of lava from Sky Suspension Palace. Pool of lava. Everyone was shocked. Looking at the lava in the pool, they saw red lava surging endlessly. The scorching aura made even Void God Realm Kings feel uneasy. Furthermore, Void God Realm Kings were the leaders of these elite groups, so there weren't many of them. Boom! Right at this moment, a faint spatial tremor came from the depths of the pool of lava. Some of the experts with strong senses felt the roar of a dragon next to their ears, making their hearts jump. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Senior Martial Brother Zhuge smiled. A layer of mysterious fire tadpole appeared on his body. With a pop sound, he jumped into the boiling red magma pool. When the crimson lava emitted a layer of raging red crystal flame, which engulfed Senior Brother Zhuge and disappeared without a trace. Senior Martial Brother Zhuge. The disciples of Sky Suspension Palace couldn't help but exclaim with worried expressions. A few breaths later, whoosh! A layer of fire pattern light shadow flew out. When the fire light disappeared, it was Senior Brother Zhuge. Fire Elemental experts, activate your fire elemental defenses and enter together. Senior Martial Brother Zhuge smiled and said. Whoosh! 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 The team from Sky Suspension Palace formed a formation and jumped into the lava pool in a flash of dazzling flames. Behind them were the members of the Imperials. It's just the entrance to a barrier. Zhao Feng scanned the area with his left eye and jumped into the pool of lava without even activating his defenses. After entering the magma pool, the blazing scarlet flame aura quickly dissipated. A layer of light like the setting sun shone into everyone's field of vision. Everyone passed through the layer of light and entered an ancient dimension filled with yuan qi. However, the place they were in was scorched black, and they could faintly see a palace in the distance. Space faintly trembled as a dragon might that seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth appeared. So, this Xiaoyang Palace is a world within a world, and it has its own secret dimension. Chapter 833. The Divine Illusion Dimension was a tattered world left behind by an ancient god. It floated around and overlapped with the continent zone once every 100 years. The dimension that the elites were in right now was a world within a world that was based on the Divine Illusion Dimension. At this moment, they were in the outskirts of an ancient secret realm. Behind them was a layer of light that seemed to be flowing like lava. The heaven-earth yuan qi within the secret realm was much thicker than the outside world. Boom! Light flashed in the depths of the secret realm, and space itself started to tremble. The destructive dragon aura was stronger than ever before. A purple jewel-like palace could be faintly seen in the distance. It was covered in a layer of misty blood-colored sunlight, and its surface gave off a dark glow. This palace gave off an indescribable hazy feeling, and it gave off a wicked aura. Zhao Feng felt that this aura was similar to the evil god crystal. That palace in the distance should be Xiaoyang Palace. The eighth prince looked into the distance. Everyone's gazes were locked onto the dreamlike palace in the distance. Woo boom! Boom! The sound of collisions came from the depths of Xiaoyang Palace, and the roar of an enraged dragon became clearer and clearer. Outside of Xiaoyang Palace, the layer of mist that looked like a bloody sun would shatter and quickly recover. Zhao Feng's left eye could faintly see the shadow of a black-scaled dragon. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, and every attack seemed to be able to shatter heaven and earth. A faint black gust of wind destroyed everything nearby. The outskirts of Xiaoyang Palace were scorched black and filled with holes. Even the bewildering mist forbidden formation outside the mansion had many holes and flaws under the black serpent dragon's relentless attacks. When whoosh! 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 The misty array released a wave of purple and blood-colored light that sliced through everything in heaven and earth. Each of the purple and blood-colored lines created by the forbidden array could instantly kill a king or severely injure an emperor. However, the black destruction serpent dragon's body was monstrously strong, and it was able to block the tens of thousands of purple and blood-colored light beams without taking any actual damage. So, this is the power of the 9th-ranked bloodline of the 10,000 ancient races. Zhao Feng's heart skipped a beat. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon was worthy of being the strongest being he had ever encountered. Outside the secret realm, the elite teams of the Great Qian dynasty shuddered in fear when they felt the waves of destructive dragon might surging towards them. The forces split up and carefully approached Xiaoyang Palace. Xiaoyang Palace was pretty big. The elite teams all tried their best to get as far away from the Black Serpent Dragon as possible. Everyone agreed on this point. After all, no one wanted to attract the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's attention and hostility. Not long after, the group of elites approached the other side of Xiaoyang Palace. The forbidden array outside the palace made their hearts beat faster. The forbidden array around Xiayang Palace is so powerful that the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon hasn't been able to break it even after attacking it for so long. The pink-robed female from Sky Suspension Palace was surprised. Everyone could sense just how strong the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's attacks were from its aura alone. The destructive power of every strike of the Black Flood Dragon could destroy a 2-star sect. None of the geniuses and elites present were confident that they could block a single attack from the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon is invincible to us. Zhao Feng sighed in his heart. He had to admit this point. His left eye could see even more clearly, so he came to this conclusion after some analysis. Hee. Senior Marshal Brother Zhuge from Sky Suspension Palace gave a faint smile. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's goal is to destroy the entire forbidden array. Of course it'll be difficult. Everyone nodded their heads in agreement. The array around Xiayang Palace was, after all, a god's forbidden array, and it had a strong self-repairing ability. Even after so many years, a lot of the array's power had been used up, and there were still some flaws. Ha. We have to thank the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon for opening a path for us. It's furiously attacking the array and creating even more flaws. Zhe, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's destructive power is strong, but it won't be able to enter the palace through the flaws in the array. Some geniuses couldn't help but laugh with a smug and mocking expression. From when they first chased after the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon to when it opened a path and destroyed the array, it gave the humans an opportunity. It was as if everything the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon did was to serve the humans. At this moment in time, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's relentless attacks caused some flaws and cracks to appear in the god's forbidden array around Xiayang Palace. There were many array masters present, and they were able to see through many flaws in the array. Find a stable flaw and try to enter. The groups of the various forces were all looking for a big enough flaw to enter Xiayang Palace. However, every time a crack appeared, the god's forbidden formation would swiftly repair it. The time it took was very short. Most formations have flaws and loopholes that will exist for a period of time. However, this is a god's forbidden formation. Trying to use a simple loophole to break through is extremely difficult and dangerous. Xian Wuheng murmured. If it was a normal peak-tier array, they would be able to enter through just the flaws. Even if there was some backlash, they would be able to take it head-on. However, the god's forbidden array wasn't normal. Just the slightest backlash could kill a Void God Realm King. Only by entering through the cracks in the god's forbidden array will there be no backlash. This is the safest method, an array master said. However, the cracks in the god's forbidden array were created by the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's attacks, and the god's forbidden array had a strong self-repairing ability. Every crack that appeared would instantly repair itself. Therefore, the appearance of a crack in the god's forbidden array wasn't something that could be controlled. Wait for the crack to appear and grasp that instant. The elites of the various forces waited in the areas where the cracks appeared more frequently. Some areas had bigger flaws, so the chances of a crack appearing were higher. Of course, they couldn't get too close to the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon in case they were discovered. This suitable area was first taken by the Sky Suspension Palace and the Great Ghan Imperials, who were stronger. Although the other forces were unhappy, they didn't object. It's just a matter of time. The elites of some forces didn't put it to heart. Zhao Feng, Nan Gongsheng, and Xian Wuheng, who weren't part of a force, were placed at the back. Shua, a genius from Sky Suspension Palace, suddenly entered the crack in the god's forbidden array after it appeared. However, the crack only appeared for an instant before quickly healing. Only one person entered. Only one person could enter the crack every time it appeared. Shua. The members of Sky Suspension Palace and the Imperials would occasionally enter the cracks in the god's forbidden array. Many teams were watching with rapt attention. However, the crack in the god's forbidden array didn't appear even after half of the people from Sky Suspension Palace and the Imperials had entered. What's going on? The crack still hasn't appeared. The teams of the various forces present began to whisper to each other. At this point in time, Xianyuan Wen from Sky Suspension Palace and the 9th Prince of the Imperials had already led their own groups into Xiayang Palace. These people were waiting within the palace to meet up with the others. However, the crack in the god's forbidden array didn't appear even after a while. On the other side, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's attacks seemed to have stopped. Something's wrong. Senior Marshal Brother Zhuge's eyebrows furrowed as he started to think. At a certain moment, he instinctively looked in the direction of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon, but his expression changed dramatically when he didn't see it. Woo! All of a sudden, a majestic dragon roar could be heard from above the crowd, followed by a destructive aura that covered the sky and earth. Arg! The forces present were covered by a giant black shadow. When they looked up, they all exclaimed as cold sweat drenched their backs. Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. A black serpent dragon that was 1 to 500 yards long appeared above everyone's heads. Black chains as thick as buckets were wrapped around its body, and its eyes were as big as houses. They were cold and dark, and they contained a hint of playfulness as they looked down at the group of ants. At this moment, everyone yelled as their hearts jumped into their throats. No one expected the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon to conceal its aura and fly into the sky, landing above everyone's heads. Whoosh! The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon gave off a roar that shook heaven and earth, and an invisible gust of wind and draconic pressure descended. Plop! Plop! Some geniuses and elites were unable to withstand the pressure and instantly knelt on the ground. Wah! Wah! Many people immediately spat out blood. Those below the Void God realm couldn't even fight back against the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's draconic pressure. Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. Zhao Feng's heart dropped, and his bloodline instinctively trembled. His thoughts spun as he thought of countless ways to escape, but he found that the success rate was extremely low. As the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon roared, a faint black whirlwind covered everything within 10 miles. Sky Suspension Palace, the Great Ghan Imperials, Sky Sword Pavilion, 9 Darkness Palace, all the groups from the forces were caught in the whirlwind. Arg! One of the groups that tried to escape, a Void God Realm King and 3 or 4 half-step kings, was instantly turned into dust by the whirlwind. Boom! A huge dragon claw slammed down from the sky, crushing the remaining members of the small team into minced meat. A huge scorched pit with a diameter of 100 zhang was left where they stood. Sai. The groups present all took in cold breaths. The Black Serpent Dragon had annihilated a team of 3-star sects in a single move. Stupid humans. How dare you follow the Great Destruction race and try to use me for Xiayang Palace's benefits? A cold voice that seemed to look down on the heavens descended from the sky. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's giant body spun in the air as a terrifying whirlwind surrounded all the groups below with a cruel expression. The elites of the various forces, who had fallen into a desperate situation, fell into despair. Arg! Let's go! An extremely small number of elites burned their true yuan and unleashed their secret techniques in an insane attempt to escape. Boom! A giant dragon claw descended from the sky and sealed the air, quickly killing the geniuses and elites that tried to escape. Sacred Emperor Pendant. The 9th prince tried to pull out the Sacred Emperor's sword in despair, but he was stopped by the wrinkled elder next to him. Senior Marshal Brother Zhuge. Xianyuan Wen, who had already entered Xiayang Palace, exclaimed as he looked at the nightmarish scene outside, but he couldn't do anything to stop it. Everyone outside the palace stood next to the abyss of despair. The number of people that could remain calm in this situation of death could be counted on one hand. So what if I die? The white beard from Sky Sword Pavilion gave a sorrowful smile, but he wasn't afraid. On the contrary, he seemed to be unafraid of death. Apart from that, Senior Marshal Brother Zhuge, Xian Wuheng, Zhao Feng, and company maintained their calm in front of the abyss of despair. Their thoughts spun as they analyzed the situation and tried to find a way out. Chapter 834. The terrifying aura of the destruction dragons might suppress the air in front of Xiayang Palace, and a faint black tornado trapped all the elite groups present. In the air, the black destruction serpent dragon that was 400 to 500 yards long spun above everyone's head and gave off a soul-piercing dragon roar. The battlefield was deathly silent. Cold sweat appeared on the foreheads of the geniuses and elites as endless fear and despair appeared on their faces. Most of them knelt on the ground and trembled under the aura of the destruction dragon. They didn't even have the ability to fight back. Zhao Feng. Nan Gongsheng's heart went numb as he looked at Zhao Feng in the abyss of despair. Even at this moment, Zhao Feng didn't panic. His eyes were calm. They had seen the black destruction serpent dragon appear, so they knew how terrifying its strength was. So, the black destruction serpent dragon already sensed that there were people following it, but in its eyes, the humans that entered the divine illusion dimension were just ants that could be ignored. Zhao Feng was the first to understand the reason. The humans that entered from the outside world had completely underestimated the black destruction serpent dragon's intelligence and thought that it was a pure destroyer. Some of the geniuses present couldn't help but reveal regretful expressions. This was especially true for the arrogant geniuses that had mocked the black destruction serpent dragon. Brother Feng, are we going to die? Zhao Yufei from the Duanmu family revealed a look of despair as she looked at Zhao Feng. If they were going to die, she was willing to die with the person she loved. The black destruction serpent dragon is an invincible existence to us, and its speed surpasses everyone else. Zhao Feng's expression was still calm. Fighting back or running away would only result in death. The opponent this time was unbeatable. Even a peak emperor wouldn't be able to block one breath from the black destruction serpent dragon. The wolf emperor, who had died earlier, was an example. Soon, Zhao Feng felt that something was wrong. If the black destruction serpent dragon had invincible power and superhuman intelligence, why hadn't it attacked yet? In the eyes of the black destruction serpent dragon, the humans below were just ants. A sneeze from it could instantly kill a group of people. If it really wanted to kill them, they would have already been annihilated. Then, there is only one answer. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed as he heaved a sigh of relief. In a short period of time, Zhao Feng didn't need to worry about his own safety, and he cast a reassuring look at Zhao Yufei and Nan Gongsheng. Under Zhao Feng's gaze, the fear and despair in Zhao Yufei and Nan Gongsheng's hearts dissipated a little. Lord Black Serpent Dragon. May I ask, what other value do we have? Senior Marshal Brother Zhuge of the Sky Suspension Palace took a deep breath and looked at the gigantic black-scaled dragon in the sky. At this point, a few people also understood. Why didn't the black destruction serpent dragon immediately kill them and instead intimidate those who were trying to run? There was only one answer, and that was that the black serpent dragon still had some value in its eyes. Very good, I need a smart person like you. In the air, the black destruction serpent dragon revealed a proud smile as a sliver of admiration appeared in its eyes. When it said that, everyone below expressed their willingness to work for it. Humans. As you can see, my body is huge, and I'm restricted by the Yuan ceiling divine chains, so it's hard for me to enter Xiayang God Palace. The black serpent dragon's cold eyes scanned across everyone. You mean? Senior Marshal Brother Zhuge said respectfully. On the other side, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng revealed thoughtful expressions. The black destruction serpent dragon's body was too big. Under normal circumstances, it could use a secret technique to shrink its body and even turn into a human. However, the existence of the Yuan ceiling divine chains restricted its movements. I will help you enter Xiayang Palace safely. However, you humans will need to help me find the key to the Yuan ceiling divine chains or destroy the core of Xiayang Palace's array. The Black Serpent Dragon's deep voice resounded across the battlefield. The geniuses and elites present were pleasantly surprised by the sudden turn of events. As expected, the Black Serpent Dragon needed them to do something. With the Black Serpent Dragon's help, it'll be much easier to enter Xiaoyang Palace and obtain the treasures inside. Some of the older elites revealed joyful expressions. It was very likely that the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon knew a bit about Xiaoyang Palace. This meant that the geniuses present would receive a lot of help. You have 1 month to complete the mission. Otherwise, I'll be able to enter Xiaoyang Palace in 1 month. At that time, I'll kill all of you. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's voice became cold, and the bone-chilling killing intent made everyone's hearts shake and their feet go cold. Lord Black Serpent Dragon, don't worry. We will do our best to complete the mission. The geniuses and elites below all nodded their heads. Everyone present couldn't help but let out a long breath. No matter what, they had 1 month of time. There might be some changes in a month's time. I will leave the mark of world annihilation on all of you. The Black Serpent Dragon gave a cunning smile. Mark of destruction. Everyone's hearts shook. They could tell that it wasn't anything good. Go! The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon waved its claws, and nearly 200 streaks of scarlet-black light shot toward all the geniuses and elites present. No one dared to dodge. Whoosh! 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 The scarlet-black lights merged into everyone's bodies. Whoosh! One of the scarlet-black lights merged into Zhao Feng's body. Zhao Feng sensed it quietly and felt a unique aura of destruction spread through his body and into his soul. This is the unique bloodline mark of the destruction race. Even though it's a simplified version, anyone below the demigod realm won't be able to get rid of it. It can remain in the target's body for 100 years. The Black Serpent Dragon seemed to be confident. 100 years. Everyone's hearts shook. Didn't that mean that if they didn't complete the mission, they would be chased by the Black Serpent Dragon for 100 years? Furthermore, the Black Serpent Dragon's mark was extremely unique. It was a bloodline ability. This aura is very unique. It contains the origin intent of destruction and is very difficult to destroy. Zhao Feng sensed it. With this mark, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon could sense it even if they were far away. This meant that even if they had the ability to sneak out of Xiaoyang Palace, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon would be able to sense them and kill them. The hearts of everyone present dropped. When the world annihilation mark was completely assimilated into their bodies, tiny black lines appeared on their bodies and faces. Among them, Zhao Yufei revealed a pained expression. The spiritual race bloodline within her started to clash with the power of the Black Serpent Dragon's bloodline. Spiritual race bloodline? The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon revealed a weird expression as it waved its claws, and a few bolts of scarlet-black lightning entered Zhao Yufei's body. Instantly, the mark of destruction within Zhao Yufei's body became several times stronger, and even the spiritual race bloodline couldn't do anything about it. Very good. The talent and potential of all of you has exceeded my expectations. I hope that you can complete the mission as soon as possible. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon gave an indifferent smile. The more intelligent and powerful these humans were, the higher their chances of completing the mission would be. Begin. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's enormous body slammed into the god's forbidden array outside of Xiaoyang Palace. Whoosh! 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 Hundreds and thousands of purple and blood-colored threads of light instantly appeared on the god's forbidden array and stabbed into the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's body. Each of these purple and blood-colored threads of light could kill a king or severely injure an emperor. However, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon was able to resist this power head-on and even used its claws to rip open a crack that was dozens of yards long and half a yard wide. Hurry up and go in. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's cold voice resounded across the battlefield. Everyone finally understood and recovered from the shock of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's strength. Whoosh! 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 The elites present all flew into the crack. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon could maintain a stable crack so that everyone could easily enter. In comparison, the risk was much lower. If it was a small crack like the one before, it would disappear in an instant. If the timing was wrong, the god's forbidden formation would devour him. Soon after, the elites of the Great Gon Lord dynasty passed through the god's forbidden array and entered Xiaoyang Palace. After entering Xiaoyang Palace, everyone could still feel the terrifying aura of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon, and their bodies and bloodlines were all suppressed. This is a rough map of Xiaoyang Palace. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon slashed through the air with its other claw. A black outline of Xiaoyang Palace soon appeared above everyone's heads. However, this map was only a rough outline from the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's memories, so it was very simple. Everyone present was either a half-step king or a king, so they could easily remember it. Senior Martial Brother Zhuge, are you okay? Xian Yuanwen let out a long breath within the palace and met up with those from Sky Suspension Palace. Of everyone present, only Xian Yuanwen and the 9th prince didn't have a mark of destruction on them. However, as long as the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon stood guard outside Xiaoyang Palace, it didn't make much of a difference. After traveling for a while, everyone. Are we really going to help the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon find the key to the Yuan Sealing Divine Lock? Even if we complete the mission, will the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon let us go? The leaders of the groups gathered together and started to discuss. At the same time, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon coiled in the air outside Xiaoyang Palace revealed a mocking smile. Right at this moment, at this distance, the Black Serpent Dragon will be able to sense our conversation, Meng Qi said. An emotionless voice sounded from the crowd. Hearing this, everyone's gazes landed on a purple-haired youth. This youth was Xiao Feng, one of the purple-haired demonic duo. What? The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon outside Xiaoyang Palace couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. However, at this moment, it couldn't see what was happening inside Xiaoyang Palace, so it didn't know who this voice came from. Therefore, any of our conversations and plans will become an open conspiracy, including the communication of various forms such as divine sense. The emotionless voice sounded once more. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's expression changed. The owner of that voice definitely wasn't simple. I've made a mistake. Among these people, there's still one, or even more, hidden characters. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon murmured. Within Xiaoyang Palace, he's right. Xian Wuheng and Senior Martial Brother Zhuge closed their eyes and sensed for a while before nodding their heads. Everyone was stunned after knowing this. Didn't that mean that any discussion or plan would be sensed by the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon? No wonder Xiao Feng said that any plan would become an open plan. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon would sense everything they did. How would they break through this battle of life and death? Xiao Feng, do you have a way to dissolve this mark of destruction? Nan Gongsheng couldn't help but ask after seeing how calm Xiao Feng was. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon also sensed his message and started to eavesdrop. Chapter 835. Xiao Feng, do you have a way to dissolve this mark of destruction? Nan Gongsheng's divine sense message didn't escape the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's senses. Xiao Feng's existence had already attracted the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's attention. He definitely wasn't a simple person to be able to see through the mark of destruction so quickly. Right now, it's not important whether or not I can dissolve this mark of destruction. Xiao Feng shook his head and didn't reply. Nan Gongsheng couldn't help but sigh. Indeed, even if they could dissolve the mark of destruction, there wasn't much meaning to it. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon would definitely keep a close eye on Xiaoyang Palace. The most important thing was the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's invincible threat. The mark of destruction was just a threat to them. If I use the power of the god tribulation, I might be able to dissolve the mark of destruction. Zhao Feng weighed the pros and cons. Comparatively speaking, this simplified mark of world annihilation was easier to deal with than the cursed words of death from back then. After all, the price of the cursed words of death was too high. There was also another reason. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon was extremely weak right now, and its strength might not even be 1% of its peak. Adding on the Yuan Sealing Divine Chains, many of its techniques were restricted. However, Zhao Feng didn't plan on dissolving the Mark of Destruction so quickly in case the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon became too wary. Outside Xia Yang Palace, interesting, the talent, bloodline, and techniques of these people are all extraordinary. There's even a spiritual race bloodline and peak void god realm intent. The playful expression on the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's face became even stronger. The strongest of these humans were only comparable to martial monarchs. How big of a wave could they cause? Even Void God Realm Emperors were just slightly bigger ants in the eyes of the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. On an empty plot of land within Xiayang Palace, the geniuses of the various forces gathered together. Brother Xianyuan and I aren't affected by the Mark of Destruction. In terms of strategy, why don't the two of us first weigh the pros and cons? The ninth prince suggested. Hearing that, everyone else nodded their heads and didn't speak or send messages. The moment he spoke or transmitted his voice, it would be easily sensed by the world annihilation mark that had fused into his body. Those from Sky Suspension Palace and the Great Ghan Imperials felt lucky that their strongest genius had entered Xiayang Palace early and hadn't been struck by the Mark of Destruction. Not long after, the ninth prince, Xianyuan Wen, and company came up with a plan, and everyone nodded in agreement. Our plan can have two backup plans. The ninth prince paused for a moment. The so-called two-pronged preparation was to find the key to the primordial spirit forbidding lock, and at the same time, think of a way to deal with the Black Serpent Dragon and escape its control. If we obtain the key to the primordial sealing divine lock, we might be able to use it to threaten the Black Serpent Dragon. The ninth prince faintly smiled and lowered his voice. Everyone's eyes lit up. Zhao Feng also secretly nodded in agreement. After deciding on the basic strategy, the forces started to spread out and search for fortune within Xiayang Palace as well as the key to the Yuan Sealing Divine Lock. Swoosh! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng charged toward the depths of Xiayang Palace under a layer of silver and purple light. Increasing our strength is the most important thing. Xiayang Palace is a mysterious ancient palace, and the fortune here should be much better than the outside world. Expectation appeared in Zhao Feng's eyes. Most of the buildings within Xiayang Palace were protected by the God's Forbidden Array, but they weren't as dangerous and hostile as the God's Forbidden Array outside. Every brick and tile here would automatically repair itself after being damaged by the God's Forbidden Array. Furthermore, the materials of an ancient god's palace surpassed common sense, and normal attacks wouldn't be able to damage it. Schwa! At a certain moment, the silver and purple light stopped in front of an orchard. What powerful heaven-earth yuan qi! It's far stronger than some of the treasures in the world. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng revealed surprised expressions. The powerful heaven-earth yuan qi was coming from the orchard nearby. They looked closely. There were spiritual fruits growing on the trees in the orchard, and they gave off a faint yuan qi that suppressed one's yuan qi. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng couldn't help but get closer. It's not protected by the God's Forbidden Array. Surprise appeared on their faces as they inspected the orchard. The fruits in the orchard were all top-tier spiritual fruits in the outside world, and they could be used to refine pills or eat directly. What surprised them the most was that the orchard wasn't protected by the God's Forbidden Array. Meow meow. The little thieving cat suddenly jumped onto the tree, grabbed a fruit, and started to chew on it. Cloud pear. Tua dragon green lotus. Blood yang centipede. Zhao Feng recognized the origins of these fruits with the help of the large number of memories in his mind. Seng. Seng. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng also joined in the picking of the spiritual fruits. The entire process was extremely smooth, and there were no outside forces interfering. Perhaps these spirit fruits were only some of the ordinary fruits from the original mansion. Zhao Feng concluded as he picked them. According to the records, he found that these were all edible fruits from the ancient era, but they contained a lot of heaven-earth yuan qi due to the unique environment of Xiaoyang Palace. If a primal core realm cultivator consumed these fruits, they would have a strong nourishing effect on their body, allowing them to improve their cultivation. Even for a virtual god, eating a few to fill their stomachs would be beneficial. These fruits are almost extinct in the outside world. Nan Gongsheng was slightly excited. If these fruits could be taken back to the outside world, they would be priceless. Furthermore, there were quite a lot of spiritual fruits here. Whoosh! 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 Right at this moment, 2 or 3 groups quickly approached the orchard. So many spiritual fruits. There's no one guarding it or any arrays protecting it. The people from these groups were all shocked. Sang! 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 Soon, the people from the 3 teams also joined in the harvest of spiritual fruits. There were at least a few thousand spiritual fruits, but no one fought over them. Purple-haired demonic duo. One of the groups was from 9 Darkness Palace. Jiu Wuji, who was wearing a black battle robe, squinted his eyes as he inspected Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng. However, everyone knew how hard the purple-haired demonic duo were to deal with. Even though the purple-haired demonic duo was just 2 people, the other 3-star forces didn't want to offend them. In just a short while, all the spiritual fruits in the orchard had been picked. What surprised everyone was that the 3 forces didn't fight during the process. There was only one reason. There were too many spiritual fruits here, and each group had picked several hundred to 1,000. Everyone had excited expressions. Although these spiritual fruits weren't peerless, it was still a joyous thing to be able to obtain such a harvest without any effort. Whoosh! 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 After picking the spiritual fruits, everyone headed toward the depths of Xiaoyang Palace. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng chewed on the fruits. They weren't willing to fall behind, and they were even ahead of the other groups. At this point in time, the advantage of the 2-man team was shown. Although some of the other groups had a lot of people, their normal members hadn't reached the Void God realm yet. On the other hand, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng's average strength far surpassed most geniuses and elites. They only traveled a dozen or so miles before stopping once more. Ding! Ding! Jiang! Jiang! In a bamboo forest ahead, there was a group chopping down bamboo, and the sound of metal clanging could be heard. These bamboos were crystal green, and some were 10 yards tall. They radiated a pure aura of spirituality. Sky Rime Bamboo. Zhao Feng recognized the bamboo with one glance and revealed a surprised expression. This Sky Rime bamboo was an ancient precious bamboo used to craft wood elemental earth-grade weapons, and it could also be used to craft items that focused on the Tao of entertainment. In the outside world, this kind of bamboo was almost extinct, and it was hard to find. Ha ha ha. It's very rare to see this kind of Sky Rime bamboo in the outside world. The quality of this bamboo can probably be used to craft high-grade earth-grade weapons. Hurry up and chop them down. We'll be rich once we leave the divine illusion dimension. This group came from a 3-star power. Whoosh! A silver and purple light flew over from afar and landed in the Sky Rime bamboo forest. Kill! It would be a waste if we didn't chop down some Sky Rime bamboo of this quality. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng also joined in the chopping of the bamboo. However, the Sky Rime bamboo was extremely tough, and normal weapons wouldn't be able to damage it. Whoosh! Nan Gongsheng had spatial talent, and an extremely thin silver and purple blade condensed in his hand. Every time he swung it, he would be able to chop down a Sky Rime bamboo. Meow meow. The little thieving cat held a dagger that was as dark as a shadow, and it could easily chop down a bamboo. It was even more relaxed than Nan Gongsheng. Zhao Feng didn't have any good skills or weapons, so he jumped onto a very tall bamboo and looked down at the situation nearby. He couldn't help but pause when he saw what was happening, and his expression became weird. With the help of his god's spiritual eye, the geniuses and elites that entered Xiaoyang Palace hungrily started to plunder the plants within Xiaoyang Palace. Everything within Xiaoyang Palace was covered in gold. Even the most normal flowers, bricks, and tiles within Xiaoyang Palace are rare treasures to outsiders. Zhao Feng couldn't help but sigh. One had to say that the difference between gods and humans wasn't just big. According to what he knew and observed, some of the more important buildings would be protected by the gods' forbidden array. As for the things that everyone else could plunder, to the masters and servants of the mansion, they were all worthless and disdainful of even mentioning them. Simply put, the plants and flowers were the same as the air and soil to the people living in the palace. On a hill on the other side, a small group was furiously digging up the soil and ore. On the other side of the river, several elites of the older generation were extremely excited as they jumped into the river to fish or harvest plants. Zhao Feng's left eye quickly scanned over them, and his face twitched. These peerless geniuses and elites from the outside world were like a bunch of country bumpkins that had entered a super mansion that no one was looking after. Their eyes sparkled as they looted everything. Zhao Feng was one of them. Thinking up to there, even he couldn't help but feel slightly embarrassed. Foolish humans. No matter how much trash you take, if you can't complete the mission within a month, everyone will die. A cold and mocking voice sounded in everyone's ears. A cold and mocking voice sounded in everyone's ears. Everyone who had the mark of world annihilation on them heard this voice. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon didn't know whether to laugh or to be angry at the scene within Xiaoyang Palace. These humans were attracted by some of the insignificant flowers, bricks, and tiles around Xiaoyang Palace and kept plundering them. Chapter 836. Foolish Humans. No matter how much scrap metal you loot, if you can't complete the task within a month, you will be punished. Everyone will die. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's voice caused the hearts of the geniuses and elites who were excitedly harvesting, cutting, and digging to turn cold. That voice was like a bucket of cold water drenched him from head to toe. Some of the geniuses and elites stopped what they were doing and felt a strong sense of danger. Not long ago. Only then did they manage to survive the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's might. And this survival period was 1 month. Scrap metal. Nan Gongsheng's face twitched as he cut down the sky rime bamboo. The other prodigies and elites who were chopping down the bamboo also stiffened, and a sense of crisis arose in their hearts. Meow, the little thieving cat, unwillingly put away the Shadow Kill Imperial dagger and returned to Zhao Feng's shoulder. We can't waste time on the outskirts of Xiaoyang Palace. Zhao Feng stood on a tall bamboo tree. He had a rough understanding of the situation within Xiaoyang Palace through his observations just now. It wasn't hard to get some information from the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon's words. There would be even greater fortune in the depths of Xiaoyang Palace. No matter what. His own life was the most important. No matter how many resources and treasures he plundered, if he couldn't keep his life, then it would all be for naught. Let's go. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng headed toward the depths of Xiaoyang Palace. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon had given him a rough map of Xiaoyang Palace before entering the palace. Although Xiaoyang Palace sounded like a palace, it was an independent little world with many laws inside. Some of the important parts of the mansion were protected by the god's forbidden formation. I'll first enter Xiaoyang Palace. That way, I'll have a chance to find the key to the Yuan sealing divine chains and the core of the god's forbidden array. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed. When the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon threatened everyone and gave out the mission, Zhao Feng already had a plan in mind. If this plan succeeds, Not only will we be able to ensure everyone's safety, we might even be able to launch a counterattack against the Black Serpent Dragon. Zhao Feng planned silently in his heart. Indeed, the Black Serpent Dragon was invincible compared to everyone else. However, Xiayang Palace was a god palace. If they could make use of the terrain, they might have a chance to turn the situation around. Swoosh! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng flew toward the depths of Xiayang Palace. Nan Gongsheng didn't know that the purple-haired youth next to him already had a bold plan to counter the Black Serpent Dragon. After flying for dozens of miles, the two of them stopped again. In his field of vision, the path between the flower bed and the pavilion was embedded with pebbles that shone with a strange luster. Radiant agate. Zhao Feng recognized the material of the pebbles. This jade-like agate was a top-notch material for forging divine armaments. It could amplify the might of divine armaments and was extremely rare in the outside world. Even some top-grade Earth-ranked divine armaments needed this dazzling agate. However, this material was used to pave a cobblestone road in Xiayang Palace. Go! Zhao Feng resisted the temptation and continued deeper with Nan Gongsheng. On the way, they met many more temptations, and they almost couldn't resist the urge to steal or cut down trees. There's no rush. There's definitely more fortune in Xiayang Palace. Zhao Feng took a deep breath. After all, they were entering a god's palace, and the flowers, bricks, and tiles here were only the lowest tier. Zhao Feng believed that the true treasures were at the back. Whoosh! 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 At the same time, the group of elites was also heading toward the depths of Xiayang Palace. However, the laws within Xiayang Palace were extremely powerful. Even Void God Realm kings could only fly through the air and not actually fly. Therefore, their actual speed wasn't very fast. Half a day later, a glowing pond appeared in Zhao Feng's vision. Green waves undulated in the pond, and there was a patch of white lotuses mixed with some lotus roots. A surge of pure spiritual yuan qi surged over before they even got close. Those white lotuses were obviously not ordinary objects. Some of the pure white petals that had bloomed were flowing with a layer of gentle and cool flowing white light, and the green leaves that served as a contrast had a layer of green light floating on them, emitting an enormous aura of life. The lotus roots in the pond were as clear as jade, like the arm of a beauty. They had a meaty feeling that made one want to take a bite. Green water sky lotus. It's a legendary precious lotus. Right at this moment, a group flew over. The leader was a bald male in black battle robes, Jiu Wuji from Nine Darkness Palace. Green water sky lotus. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng looked at each other with surprise. In terms of grade and value, the emerald water sky lotus was comparable to the heaven water crystal lotus from before, and in some aspects, it was even superior. However, Zhao Feng only managed to find one sky water crystal lotus in the divine illusion dimension. As for the emerald water sky lotuses, there were at least several hundred of them growing in the entire pond. In other words, there were several hundred sky water crystal lotuses here. Everyone present couldn't help but take in a deep breath. The petals of the green water sky lotus have too many uses. They can cleanse the body and soul, get rid of hidden injuries and poisons, and they can even increase one's state of existence. The lotus fruits from the green water sky lotus can help condense soul intent, and they're very useful for Void God Realm kings. The green leaves can even heal injuries. Those from Nine Darkness Palace discussed excitedly as their hearts beat faster. The functions of the emerald water sky lotus weren't ordinary. The petals, lotus fruits, and green leaves all had extraordinary effects, and their total value was even higher than the sky water crystal lotus. This emerald water sky lotus can consolidate our strength to a certain extent. Zhao Feng decided to stay for now. If it was a normal resource, he wouldn't stay as long as it wasn't ridiculously expensive. However, the green water sky lotuses had a certain effect on Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng's strength. The lotus fruits from the sky lotus could help Zhao Feng consolidate his emperor intent. At the same time, the lotus fruits could help Nan Gongsheng condense his soul intent. The petals of the sky lotus and the wicked power that helped Nan Gongsheng take out the evil god crystal could cleanse his body and soul. One had to know that Nan Gongsheng was just a bit away from breaking through to the late stages of the void god realm. What's that lotus root? Those from Nine Darkness Palace stood next to the pond as their gazes landed on the lotus roots in the pond. The luster of the lotus roots was like the snow-white skin of a peerless goddess. Just looking at it was extremely attractive. Whoosh! Whoosh! Right at this moment, another group flew over. The person leading them was a beautiful purple-haired girl. Zhao Feng immediately recognized that she was Ji Lan from the Ji family, one of the 8 big families. A faint purple light flashed in Ji Lan's eyes as she scanned over the pond, and her body shook. It's the green water sky lotus. That jade-like lotus root grows together with the green water sky lotus. Could it be the legendary spiritual flesh snow jade root? Ji Lan's expression changed once more as she looked closely. Spiritual flesh snow jade root. Hearing that, a small number of people remembered, and their hearts shook. The legendary spiritual flesh snow jade root that can create a peerless physical body. According to the ancient records, some ancient mighty figures used the spirit flesh snow jade lotus to create an even more perfect body. Then, on this foundation, they used a secret technique similar to possession and recultivation in order to break through to an even higher level. Apparently, the chances of breaking through to the mystic light realm with a physical body created by the spiritual flesh snow jade root is twice as high as normal bodies. Amidst the shock, the crowd began to discuss among themselves. The spiritual flesh snow jade root might not have much of an effect on a cultivator's cultivation, but its use was too unique. However, the function of this jade lotus root was too special. It could create an excellent physical body that was much stronger than a normal human's physique. I have to get this spiritual flesh snow jade root. A sharp light flashed through Zhao Feng's eyes. The spiritual flesh snow jade lotus root might be even more useful to him, and it wouldn't be limited to reconstructing his body. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.